Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Southwest Ranches. Please, Deborah, if you could call the roll.
Roll, Vice Mayor. Mayor Brightcruz, Vice Mayor Jablonski,
Here.
Councilmember Albritton. Here. Councilmember Hartman.
Here.
Councilmember Kaczynski.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, just so you know, before we stand for the pledge, a couple things. The mayor is on some another engagement. He'll be here in about an hour or so. In the meanwhile, we're going to be standing for the pledge. We had lost a dear friend, Astor Knight's bride, Bertie Knight. They've been married for 62 years, passed away last week. And I would like to have a moment of silence after the Pledge of Allegiance. So if everybody will please stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. And we're going to start off with today, we're going to have Russell will be introducing the redistricting presentation by Scott. Scott, are you out there? This is my third time meeting Scott. I met him in the year 2021 or 22. I met him in 2010. And I have the privilege of meeting him now in 2022. So, and Russ, if you want to go ahead.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Yeah, it's my pleasure to introduce Scott Burton Rodriguez and his daughter Taylor Burton Garcia from Empire Consultants. I also have a lot of experience working with Scott in my years with the town of Davie, and was thrilled to be able to have him as part of our redistricting effort. As you know, the redistricting effort is required as part of the charter, so we requested that Scott help us with that, and he's going to go ahead and kind of walk us through the process.
All right. Well, thank you. Again, Honorable Vice Mayor and Town Council, my name is Scott Burton Rodriguez. I'm with Empire Consultants, and I'm going to bring up my presentation up here, and let's see if this will work for me. Hopefully just a click, right? Okay, good. So this will give you some experience. So just a little bit background about myself. Yeah, for 28 years, I've been doing redistricting. Started out with Florida Atlantic University, worked with Milgren and Associates and GeoWeb, and now I'm with Empire Consultants. I never dreamed of the day that my daughter would actually listen to me and say, "Hey, I got my master's degree in urban regional planning. You know, it's really kind of cool." I never even told her she got a degree in urban regional planning. Awesome, right? So I'm very proud to have her part of the team. She did an exceptional job on a recent redistricting in the town of Davie. So right there on the screen, you can see 28 years of experience, focusing mainly on local government entities. And everyone has their own redistricting process. So I got a different flavor of everyone's, their changes throughout time. So let me see if I can, that will work. Okay, good. So just quick, this is going to be a quick overview. I'm just going to go over the understanding of the district boundary review, introduction to redistricting, population equality, 2020 population findings, and other redistricting criteria that you need to consider when looking at your districts. So the first one we're going to cover is, what is a district boundary review? Well, that's dictated by your town charter under section 2.04, section B. Basically, you have a single member district, so each district has to have population that's equal in proportion to each other. So that's what we're going to cover, because the last time the census count was done was, you mentioned it, 2010, and so now we're going to look at the 2020 and compare. The next part of the redistricting process is what our goal is to draw these boundaries based upon population equality. That's one of the primary criteria. But also, there's another set of criteria that we're going to cover as well. So what data is used to determine population equality? And as I know we always talk about, well, University of Florida, they have this thing called Beaver, and they give you your population counts. I get that. And the U.S. Census Bureau releases population data as well. So there is a special population data called redistricting. It's called Public Law 94-171, and it was released just last year, and it's like the final version of the population counts, right, for each local municipality. So there's governance on how to draw your district boundaries, and there's federal, state, local law. Your town charter is one of them. And then you have state and local laws and federal guidelines. So we adhere to this criteria. So there's rules of engagement we have to follow when doing a redistricting process. The one I want to just kind of point out today is the population equality. Again, the Supreme Court has ruled that to achieve each individual district, you really want to try to get each individual district not to exceed plus or minus 5% from the average. So let's just put a number out there. Let's say you have 100,000 people in your community, right? So ideally, if you had 4 districts, you want 25,000 people in each one. That's the ideal population. And if your district may be a little bit higher or a little bit lower, so long as it's within a 5% threshold, that's what we're looking for. So what I'm aiming to look at is when I look at the districts and the population, how much has the population deviated? Because we're trying to get that one person, one vote, population equality for each district. So next slide is the population change. So this, basically what I've done is I've acquired the Public Law 94-171, compiled the data, worked with, by the way, I just want to kudos to the town staff. Thank you for your help with getting these GIS maps and layers together. I really appreciate it. And Russell and Andy, I really appreciate your assistance on this. So what you see here on the map, those little white lines are the census blocks. Those are the building blocks that we create the district boundaries from. Each of those little polygons have population counts. It's the smallest geographic area that you can get a population count in. So that's what I got to use to draw the population. And as you can see on the screen, I just want to show the reflection of the change. So as you can see, your population has increased, a slight increase. And this slide here is showing your communities, Country Estates, Green Meadow, Ivanhoe Estates, and so on. And you can see the percent change in growth. And one of the changes has been actually a decrease was Ivanhoe Estates, as you can see. But again, it's a small number, so the percentages look high because it's a small number, as you can see on that. So we have the communities of interest in here that we also factor in, and we look at the census block population, and we look at the change. So there has been some changes in here, and what I'm looking at here is here's the population. So you see in red, that is where your largest population increases have occurred in the past 10 years. And then what we're looking here is that's just the percent change. And again, this is just showing breakdown by your communities of interest. But what we really need to look at is the next one coming up here, which will be your existing districts. So right here, you'll see District 1, 2, and 3. And in 2010, that was your population count. So in 2010, it was 7,355 for total population. As we look today, there's been an increase in District 1. There's been an increase in District 2. Particularly, District 3 has really grown. And you're going to see how that becomes a factor in a few minutes here. As I go through the slides here, I'm just showing the population counts. Your total population today is 7,869 individuals. You can see the percent change. Again, the most significant growth was in District 3 at 10.9% in the past 10 years. District 4 came in second with a 6.8% increase. So now when you look at the districts, and this is where it gets kind of interesting. So now what we're doing is we're painting the picture of the map where you have all your district boundaries and then your new population and how has it deviated. So you've got the ideal population for a district would be 1,967 people. But as you can see, when you look at the 2020 total population counts, there's a deviation. For example, in District 1, 1,950 people, That's not that bad. You're only 17 people over, or under, actually, under the ideal count, which means it's a 0.9%, you know, so that's good. That's a really good one. The ones that I would be focusing on in this redistricting process is District 2 and 3. See, District 3 is 7.8%. Now, some might say, well, why don't you just take Ivanhoe Estates and just assign it to, you know, this district? Well, just keep in mind, because of the numbers are kind of small, that really does shift the percentages. So my challenge will be looking at how to maintain your existing district boundaries, retain them, with a slight adjustment to try to get everything within a 5% threshold. So that's what I'm going to be looking at from this point forward. But the key is, to date, we've collected the population data. We've compared it to 2010. We see some areas where we can maybe look at in terms of drawing the boundaries. Now, this is only population equality. There's other factors in play, and those are, they'll come in here in a second here. I'll just show you a few real quick. There's compactness. State of Florida has been really big on this one. Compactness is basically ensuring that this is the whole, you know, that scary word, gerrymandering type of thing. We're trying to avoid that stuff, so we try to have compactness. So there's a geometric process that measures compactness. So I'll be looking at how compact your districts are. I'll also be reviewing contiguity. Now, I get it. You guys got a split on 75 there, so I get it. Not everything's going to be contiguous, but that's something that I also be looking at. And then finally, this is where I really, I'm looking for your town's input, is the communities of interest. So when I draw these boundaries, I'm going to look to the town for your input by the individual council members and as well as the staff to see if any proposed district plans are conducive to your communities of interest. And communities of interest will be defined here pretty much as those communities as I shown earlier. And with that, what are the next steps? Now that I've collected the data, we're going to prepare 1 to 3 redistricting plans, review each plan with the town administrator and town clerk. 3, we'll have a meeting, 1-to-1 review for any input. And this is a really good time for anyone on communities of interest to chime in on that one. Submittal of the redistricting plans for town council review. And then at the first reading, you will review the plans that have been submitted by the consultant, which will be us. If you don't like any of them, that's the great thing about your town charter. You have the power to choose your own plan, or you can select one of the plans as your consultant. Though I am going to look out for your best interest. So to make sure that it's defensible in court or anything if it's ever challenged. So that's why I'm here to represent, make sure that there's no issue there. And then finally, in the number of item 6, town council adoption. Once you've looked at the plans, you will review them, and then you'll make a decision. And with that, I think that was the last slide. Try to make it within the 15-minute time frame. So good. So I'll
Take your time.
I'll take any questions you may have.
Yeah, I do have a
Sure.
couple of questions, Scott. Thank you very much. It's very informative. It's amazing. I think a lot more people have moved in, but the numbers are not indicating that. Do you have timeframes on the next steps, preparing the district plans?
Yeah,
How long
I
it's
mean,
gonna take?
we're looking within a 2-week, 3-week time frame.
So it'd be within a month.
Yeah,
Safe.
very flexible. It's based on your schedule as well, and I'm going to be meeting with Russell and Andy on that.
Okay, and then everything would just fall into part as it goes along from there. So. Correct. Yeah. Okay. That's the only question I had at this point.
I don't have it.
Bob, guys got any questions?
Learning about this for the first time. Thank you.
Okay.
I'll do this in public interest. Does anybody in the public wish to comment or make any suggestions? Now would be a good time. The consultant here.
Gary, I got a quick question, if I could.
Yeah.
Redistricting, you're talking about keeping the population close to the same. I know there's a lot of towns that you're elected in the district, but in Southwest Ranches, you're elected town-wide. How is that different as far as the districts and keeping the population the same? Why would you need to keep population the same in each district if you're elected townwide?
So my understanding is that with your single-member districts, right? So in a single-member district, in the redistricting process, it is important to ensure that each district is representative, one person, one vote. And in that situation, you really want to try to make it equal as in population as possible, as opposed to just an at-large where, so I'm just going to make sure I'm clear on this. Are you stating that in the town of Southwest Ranches that anyone can vote for any council member, regardless of their geographic location?
Yes.
That's correct.
We're single member per district, but we're elected at large.
Okay, yeah, and that's not uncommon, but it's just so that way. It's been in the past where cases have been presented to the courts that people felt that they're disenfranchised, even though that is the case. They just felt that because they're not represented based upon the population with each of their districts. So the test that they usually use is population equal in each of the districts. And your overall deviation should not exceed more than 10%. I was showing you your single individual overall deviation, but if you're in a situation where your population can vote for any member, then you're looking more at that 5 to 10% threshold. The 5% threshold is more conducive for those government agencies or those municipalities where your constituents are voting for just one particular district member. That's where the 5% threshold becomes more important. When it's Southwest Ranches in your configuration, that 5 to 10% is okay, is acceptable. There's an overall deviation, and then there's just comparing each district and looking at the deviation. But I appreciate the question. Thank you.
Okay, anything else, Russ?
No, that's it. As Scott indicated, we will be bringing you back some additional scenarios to look at, and we'll
Okay.
be meeting with, Andy and I will be meeting with you individually to discuss those scenarios.
Good. Look forward to seeing what you guys come up with. Thank you very much, Scott.
Thank you.
And next up, we have New Generation Strategies and Solutions, Ms. Allison Trulock. Andy?
Yeah, thank you,
Hand-
Vice Mayor.
handed to you.
As you all know, and I think certainly members of the public know, our current solid waste contract with Waste Pro expires September 30th. At a previous meeting, we awarded the contract to Allison Trulock to come in and work with us as our consultant. I will tell you that the solid waste contract is probably one of the largest, one of the most complex issues that we work on. It is very important to have appropriate guidance and support throughout that process. And so staff has been working with Allison. We've traded, I don't know how many emails and Zoom calls and other things, and we will continue to do that. But we thought it was very important to have Allison come down tonight and fill you in and members of the public on where we are in this process. And before I turn it over to her, I'll just add one thing. We are doing a public session this Saturday at 10 a.m. here in council chambers from 10 to noon. Allison has some information she'll include tonight, some additional information to share with members of the public, and to allow the public to weigh in and share some of their thoughts on where we're headed with the new contract. And on that note, Allison, I'll turn it over to you. Thank you.
Okay, and I do. There we go. So again, Allison Trulock with NewGen, and we're talking about the upcoming Solid Waste Services RFP. So I'll start with a little more in-depth information about myself, and then I want to give an overview of the state of the solid waste industry in general, just because it adds some context to the moment that we're in, and bring it back to what it means for Southwest Ranches, and then go through a quick overview of the upcoming RFP, and then talk again about the residential town hall coming up on Saturday. So a little more about me. Got 25 glamorous years in garbage. So I've been doing this for a very long time. Specialize in collection procurements, strategic and master planning, stakeholder outreach, and ordinance reviews and revisions. NewGen as a whole is a 47-person firm. We work across water, energy, and solid waste, and I'm the managing partner for solid waste. So a little bit about what's currently going on in the industry. I mean, inflation is affecting all of us. So every individual, every industry, it's also affecting the solid waste industry. Another big challenge in the industry right now is staffing. Keeping people on the back of trucks, throwing garbage into the back of the truck is very tough in such a tight labor market, but that's even more exacerbated for CDL drivers. So there really is a shortage of CDL drivers, and you need that to be driving those collection vehicles. So staffing is certainly impacting the solid waste industry right now. And then something that's just come about probably in the last 6 or 8 months is the supply chain issues that are affecting equipment. So this is really important for the procurement to keep in mind that it's taking a lot longer to get the trucks delivered. So we need to make sure we have ample time worked into the RFP process for the transition period as well. So that's kind of big picture of what's going on everywhere. That's not specific to Florida or Southwest ranches. That's the industry as a whole. Some more things going on at the state level. There was some legislation that took effect back on October 1st of 2020, and this has to do with recycling and contamination in the recyclables. So the legislation put some requirements on local governments and haulers for these contracts. So we'll need to make sure that we put some language in there about how contaminated recyclables will be discouraged. I believe it'll be as simple as allowing the hauler to tag carts that have contamination in it, so it doesn't mean getting into fines or anything like that, but we do need to define it in the contract and then talk about how it can be dealt with through the contract.
Could you step just a tad closer to the microphone?
Is that better?
If I'm having trouble hearing you, people in the back row are probably
Okay.
having a problem.
Maybe if I take my mask down, if that's all right.
Wonderful, thank you.
Is that
Outstanding.
better?
Thank you.
Okay. Should I back up, or were you able to hear
No, no.
enough of the rest? Okay. So I was talking about the contamination rules that we've got to address in the next contract. The other thing that's happening right now in the state legislature is some discussion about liquidated damages. And so they may be putting some limits on what a local government can do. So the liquidated damages are the way that you can ensure performance, or if there is a lack of performance, then you can assess those liquidated damages. I believe because of the timing of this contract, this probably won't affect this contract, meaning we'll have the liquidated damages in the contract. We'll keep an eye on what the state legislature does, but they don't usually retroactively apply it. So if this contract is in place before this new law comes into effect, we should be okay, but again, it's something we've got to keep an eye on. So what that means for our upcoming RFP is, as I mentioned, we need ample time for the transition period. So that's not from the point when we release the RFP, that's from when we've selected a winning proposer and negotiated a contract until the start date of the contract. So we need to make sure there's ample time to be able to get the trucks delivered for the next hauler. So your current agreement expires September 30th, and there is a clause in your current agreement that would allow for a 6-month extension. And I have talked with staff about doing that 6-month extension of the current agreement because we need that transition period so that we can attract proposers to this RFP knowing they'll have enough time to order trucks. So that's a really important aspect for the next RFP. We will also include what the law is requiring on the contamination issues for recycling, and we will keep an eye on the current legislative actions in case that affects us at all. So kind of big picture, our 3 keys to attracting as many proposers as we can to this RFP. Again, that ample transition period. The other thing we've talked about with staff is the length of the initial term of the contract. So the longer that initial term is, the more appealing it is to potential proposers. And then the third kind of big picture idea is to keep it as simple as possible. So we don't want to overcomplicate the RFP process at all. Do everything we can to attract as many proposers to the RFP as possible. As far as the services that we're going to include, we've got on this screen, we've got what your current services are. So it's twice a week garbage collection in customer provided cans, once a week recycling in carts, every other week bulk collection, and then commercial garbage is also part of your agreement. What we're looking at potentially in the next RFP or in the next contract is twice a week, but making a shift to cart collection for garbage instead of customer provided cans, keeping the once a week recycling in the carts, keeping the every other week bulk. I've got one note on this slide about the workshop on Saturday. So we want to hear from the residents and what they think of these different service levels and service styles. So we'll let them weigh in and see if we need to make any adjustments for the frequency or the style of service that we'll put into the upcoming RFP. So as far as what we'll cover on Saturday, part of it is I'll give a presentation there that will kind of inform the details about advantages and disadvantages of carts. We'll talk about challenges facing the recycling industry. There's definitely been a lot of those. And then we'll also talk about some of the operational challenges with bulk collection, and then allow the residents to provide their feedback on how they feel about those specific items. We'll also open it up if there's anything else that the residents want to be able to talk through on the collection services. So with that, I will open it up to questions. I know that was a very broad overview, so let me know what questions you have.
Thank you. And go ahead, Bob.
I have one. So I know some cities fund their costs through sale of garbage bags. So basically, the more garbage bags you use, I think Tamarack does it that way. The more garbage bags you use, the more you're going to be paying at the CVS, and you're really paying your fair share. We talked years ago here about possibly, instead of garbage bags, we would go with carts. You know, it's price X if you want one cart because you've got a small family and you're doing recycling or what have you. Then there's, you know, some families around town that are pretty large and they're putting out twice a week. Is anybody doing that, or is that just an idea that got floated here years ago and never went anywhere?
Yeah, and actually Plantation has the bags, and it's pay as you throw is the term, or volume-based pay. So some communities do it with the specially marked bags, just like you described. Another thing is the different size carts. So in addition to just having one cart versus two, you could offer a smaller size cart for a lesser fee. That's another way that some communities do the kind of the pay as you throw program. There are pluses and minuses to doing it that way. I think one is just the logistics of having, there's 3 different cart sizes you could make available. Maybe you only do 2 if you were wanting to have that as an option for a smaller cart, or you could approach it like you described, where it's, you know, one base rate for one cart, and then for every additional cart you could add cost to it. The reality for the hauler when they're at a home, picking up one cart versus 2 doesn't add a whole lot of operational costs. So there are communities that would allow a resident to purchase a second cart, so they'd have to pay out of pocket for the cart, but it doesn't change what they're paying monthly, and in your case, you've got the annual assessment. So whether or not you would have that kind of pay-as-you-throw system, thinking through the administrative challenges of that as far as how you would bill for that, I think would be a challenge here. But yes, there are communities who do it. So
Thank you.
sometimes it's to incentivize recycling. So it's trying to give them a reason to put less in the garbage cart and more in the recycling cart. Again, there are sort of mixed opinions on how effective that is, how much you end up with garbage in the recycling cart instead.
Right,
So
right.
it's a great topic, but I can go on for an hour, but I won't do that. Let me stop there and see if you've
Maybe
got more
perhaps
questions.
on Saturday, I'll prime you with a question on it and you can explain, because, you know, we're about fairness out here. We try to be fair to everybody, and some people are, you know,
Some
who
people-
knows how they're accumulating so much garbage. I won't venture to say, but, you know, 6-7 pails twice a week seems to be a lot. And, you know, if they're paying the same rate as the guy next door that's throwing out 2 baggies a week because everything legitimately goes in recycling, there's something out of whack there.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I think with these hauling contracts, there are certain fixed costs, like it costs something to drive past your house.
Right.
Whether you set out or not, and then there are those variable costs that, again, there are pros and cons to how you approach addressing that with the customer directly, but we can certainly talk about it.
Yeah, I agree. Driving past down the street once, you know, makes sense, but the tipping fees on the back end of it are where we're concerned about the bills really going up.
Right.
Thank you.
I just, statement, David Kaczynski, statement that I'm aware of the labor complications, where Amazon is offering very large salaries, and I'm aware that the waste hauler has to be competitive with that. And that's an issue that our town has to take into consideration when coming into a contract. It's just something that I've been studying on that. And for a long time, I was under the impression or led to believe that at times the recycling is mixed with the regular garbage and then just put in the same location. And that caused me a lot of concern whether we need to continue with the recycling. But if Broward County is going deep into recycling, that kind of holds our hand that we kind of are forced to do this by a mandate from Broward County. Is that what your understanding is?
Well, I have a follow-up question where you've heard of the mixing. Is that specific to Southwest Ranches, or have you generally heard that that can happen in some communities where they're?
I've
they're
heard it just
putting-
around here.
Okay, just around here. My understanding is that it may be going all to the same transfer station, but in different trucks, and then it should still be going to different facilities. So I'm not aware of any mixing that might be going on right now. It occasionally does happen, but I don't know of it happening here. And your point's well taken. The recycling markets have been through quite a tough ride over the last few years. So by the time recycling markets came back on, was just in time for the inflation, the staffing issues, the supply chain issues. So there have been moments when there was no money to be made off of recyclables. Those may have been moments when people were tempted to not go through the process of baling it up and selling it. But to my knowledge, they are back to being able to do that and actually have markets to sell it to.
Good, because I have been regular, the previous owner of my home was one of the founders of the recycling program here in Southwest Ranches, Norman Leisure. So I just wanted to mention his name. He was one of the founders of it. Thank you.
And we will have more on that on Saturday too. So if you're
I'll
going to
be
join
here.
us on Saturday, we'll talk more about it.
Ms. Allison, thank you so much for coming this evening. Jim Albritton. We pick up twice a week here in Southwest Ranches. I noticed in your proposed thing that you're still looking to do that. Would it be beneficial or cost-saving if we did it once a week?
Yes, it would. It definitely saves money on the operational side. The communities that tend to go from twice a week to once a week do that when they're switching to carts. So in other words, if you only had once a week and people are setting out garbage cans and maybe just bags next to cans, most communities don't want to do that. But with the switch to carts, it becomes more feasible because everything's contained in one cart to be able to move to once a week. Communities in Florida know how hot it is, and a lot of residents may push back on only having once a week. But again, those carts make a big difference. So a 96-gallon cart can hold, I think, 7 or 8 different kitchen-sized garbage bags. So there's actually plenty of room in those carts for what most families would set out in a week. The issues with odors or vespers are somewhat mitigated by the cart itself. So I think it is feasible. I think that's one of the things we want to talk to the residents about.
I know you're picking up the same amount of trash twice a week as opposed to once a week. The same amount of trash is going out, but it would seem reasonable that the cost for the truck, the cost for fuel, the cost for labor and all would be pretty much cut in half. So, we'll discuss that. I'll be here on Saturday also to discuss that. That'll be a good time.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Yeah, just one more question. So a former neighbor of mine owned a business called Eagle Transfer, and he used to tell me how the garbage business worked when he was in it. He sold out, and he's a wealthy man now, lives in California. But the way his business operated was all of their trucks went to transfer stations and dumped. And by virtue of his customers, they basically recycled everything they could. You see the orange peels in some of the fields around town here. He had the contract for the squeezing, I don't know what you call them, where they make orange juice, down in Dade County. So he would separate that out and it would go out to feed cattle. He would take every bit of steel out of there and it would go up to some recycler. Anything that he could sell to the sugar industry to put in their incinerators to make more energy, he did that as well. Was he a one-off, or is that the direction the industry is going? Because it reduces the tipping fees dramatically.
Yeah, and that is a great question. And I think I'm not sure here in Broward. I know Broward County has made a commitment to trying to divert more. So I think it may be coming here where we're looking for those greater opportunities to divert from disposal. Again, West Coast, California, they do an awful lot of this kind of thing. And it really comes down to how much room you have to be able to do that and the equipment you need to be able to sort it out. So here, where there's already a transfer station, there may be limits to what they could do there, but that doesn't mean there couldn't be changes to that facility down the road.
It seems that people could throw everything in one can, in one bin, and have the confidence that it's not all going to the landfill.
There's something called mixed waste processing, and Montgomery, Alabama was the first to actually put one in with a private company that put it in, and it didn't quite allow them to pull out enough of the recyclables to make the money they thought they were going to make to offset some of the costs. But that's the concept you're talking about, is put it all in one container, then it's cheaper to collect it.
Right.
Get it to a facility, sort out everything that you can. The challenge in that case was you end up contaminating the recyclables. So what you could have pulled out and sold for a decent amount of money, you no longer could. So that was the challenge in that particular example. I don't know of any other communities that have actually implemented exactly what you were describing other than that one. And again, it was kind of a mixed review. So they're still trying to get it going, but there were some challenges they weren't expecting with that process. So,
Thank you.
yeah.
I have a question for you, if everybody has done. You may have already answered this. The recycling, we kept hearing for years now that it's non-existent, and then they would commingle I know, I watched them do it, where the same truck picked up both. So, and now, just now recently, they've started with a second truck. So I'm assuming that there is a market for that. Is part of that market where they burn it at the incinerator for fuel?
In the state of Florida, they count, you get renewable energy credits, so it counts as recycling in the state's eyes. But as far as if you're separating it out, you're trying to put it all to like bale it up and sell it to people who return it into other products. Maybe the contaminants or the reject residue coming out of those facilities would go to the incinerator. But the idea of the separate collection would be so that those materials could be recycled back into a new product out of those materials rather than energy.
So I guess my question, so anything that's being burned, they still count that as being recycled?
This, again, we're going to talk about this on Saturday, but the state law says that you can count 1 ton per megawatt hour produced. So you can't
Okay.
say every ton that went there counts as being recycled, but there is a calculation. And then if the county, sorry for getting too far in the weeds, but if the county's
That's
over
right.
50% with their traditional recycling rate, they get to count 1.25 tons per megawatt hour produced. So there's a formula, and because Broward County does have waste to energy, Broward has a traditional recycling rate and then a renewable energy recycling rate that's in the PowerPoint. I don't remember off the top of my head what it is, but it did increase the recycling rate of Broward County because they were making energy with what was going into waste energy.
Okay. Very good. Thank you. The one thing that's the biggest thing on our list is we haven't talked about, and that's the bulk pickup. And we have a lot of vegetation here, and some white goods, sometimes construction stuff gets mixed into it. Sometimes agricultural stuff gets mixed into it. Horse manure, things like that. So we have some of those situations. On the bulk, do you see any changes in the industry that goes on with the vegetation coming
Well,
up?
a few things on that point, and it's something that I've been talking about with town staff a little bit too, is that we may want to look at putting some limitation on the amount that gets picked up each time. Again, that's one of the reasons when I talk to the residents about it, because that can help control some costs to a degree if you are putting a limit on how many cubic yards that each household could set out. It's very common in these contracts that you would leave it at, no more than 4 cubic yards or maybe 6 cubic yards. Southwest Ranches is very different from a lot of other communities, so I think we need to balance
Ours
what
is
the realities
12. Our limit is 12 right now.
are. Which
and
is
then-
really high, so it's a
Size
high
of
level of service.
Volkswagen.
Yeah.
It's the rule of thumb.
You're
And
right,
then
there
you
go.
get charged for every cubic yard after that at a specified.
That's one way to go, and we could set it something lower than that, and then the hauler could work it out with the homeowner and an excess, bulk charge. So if they wanted more than what was in the basic service, they could still get it. But they would work out an additional price to pay for it, so it doesn't get built into your basic rate.
That's basically how we work.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you put out 14 and the limit is 12, you should be, I'm hoping I'm saying the right thing, but you should only be paying for the extra 2.
Right, and my suggestion is we may want to lower it from 12, but we can talk about that some more.
Those are fighting words in our
Okay.
town.
Yeah, that's,
We
You'll
will
find
do
that
what
out
you
on
want to do.
Saturday.
That's how we'll
I
write it
don't
up.
think you want to go there, but,
Yeah.
but we were thinking about doing possibly once a month pickup, but making it a much larger quantity that you could put out. It's just a possibility. It's nothing carved in stone by any stretch of the imagination, but we can talk more about it on Saturday.
Yep.
That's really where we need the resident input.
Yeah, we really, those of you, we have a YouTube audience?
6 residents.
Outstanding. We encourage you to come here on Saturday, let your voices be heard. You know, the more input we get, the better things are going to be, you know, for us. So when we go out to bid, we know what we're asking for. So, any other questions up here on the council? Go ahead.
Just an additional comment, not necessarily addressed to her, but a broader issue. If there was a way that the town could somehow promote, recycling back in what is it called? Let me find the term. I was just researching this. Composting. And that would kind of reduce what we would be able to put out in waste if the neighbors would kind of promote composting.
Yeah, I know a lot of neighbors that do that
Yeah.
for their vegetable gardens, their animals, et cetera. I know
Picking up.
virtually everything I have goes to my neighbor's goats. So, and they eat it and they love it. So, and the chickens and the
Chickens are great recycling tools.
yeah. It's
They
part of
never-
it. Yeah, so we encourage that, you know, wholeheartedly. But still, we still have a lot, and you know, and our situation is because of the distance, you know, which you'll become acquainted with, you know, that we're going on. So I'd like, you know, everybody who has some, and if you can't make it here on the weekend, email myself or any of the other council members.
I
Any
think
questions?
Steve mentioned last night that he's collecting information, so all of us, please, but
Yeah.
the mayor's been putting a spreadsheet of information together on all the various emails with ideas and what people want and what they don't want. So please email all of us, but make sure you get it to sbrycruz@southwestranches.org.
Very good. That would help out a lot. The more information, the better.
Yeah.
Anybody, is there any questions from the public? If they'd like, please come up to the podium. Please identify yourself.
Please come up to the mic.
Matt, you got to come up to the mic. And please identify yourself.
I'm Matthew Tavtigian, 18310 Spring Road. Just define contaminated recyclables precisely. What is that?
That is a very good question, and it really depends on what's in your recycling program. So through different communities, some have glass in there, some don't. You know, there's different materials they may put in there. So in your community, contamination would be anything that isn't on the list for what should be in your recycling container. And that's how the processor looks at it too. So if they don't have markets for it and it's not something that's in your program, that would be counted as contamination. Also, if, you know, just garbage ends up there, food scrap ends up in there, that all would be considered contamination as well.
Yeah, and I would like to mention that, thank you for bringing that up, Matt. We do have 6 times a year a hazardous waste pickup at one of our parks. It's really good. I mean, if you have leftover paint, motor oil, batteries, fluorescent light bulbs, TVs.
Yeah,
you
don't
know,
put those in the trash. Take them to
yeah.
the HHW event. Yeah.
You know, so that's something we're going to be we definitely want to keep that. Tires, you know, things of that nature that the regular hauler doesn't take on an everyday basis. Yeah.
The hauler helps with those events, though, correct?
I'm sorry?
I think the hauler helps with those events, though. Is that correct? So we'll
Andy?
keep that in the contract.
Yeah, it's in the contract. The hauler coordinates those.
Coordinates it.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
we'll make sure we keep that in the contract.
But that's,
Yes.
I know, but that's really, really good. It's really convenient too, because it's a whole little drive-through thing that we go through.
And it helps educate what shouldn't be in the garbage. So
Right.
it's a good thing
Exactly.
for lots of reasons.
Is there anybody else from the public that has a question? Please come up. Mary Ann, please come up.
Sorry, I have another one or two after.
Huh?
I have another one or two after.
Okay. Please identify yourself. Thanks.
Marianne Allen, 12701 Mustang Trail, resident here for over 30 years. I remember when we had bulk pickup every week. And I remember as a child we had bottles. We didn't have this plastic garbage that's choking our oceans and filling up our landfills, but the petroleum industry thought it was a great idea for their business, making everything plastic. You know, sometimes the past had the right idea, and you pay a deposit for your glass bottle and you can get it back, or you can give it to a kid and they can go make money. I think that's the way to go back again. And I don't know if everyone is aware, there will be a nitrogen fertilizer shortage in the world, which means many farm producers won't be able to produce the food supply that we're accustomed to, which means many shortages in the near future. We have a possibility in our area. I have a shitload of manure that can be turned into fertilizer. And if we could do some workshops for our farms where they can recycle compost and make fertilizer, most of it's organic, we could maybe make some money. Instead of me paying for it, I could get some money back for that. So we have a lot of smart people here that have great ideas that can help with lessening our footprint with the garbage. We can recycle a lot of stuff. We can compost, as you brilliantly said. And I think we can lead the way in this. Make a workshop, get some smart people together, and we can show our residents how to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Marion. Is there anybody else from the public wish to ask any questions? Or Bob, you had an additional question?
Yeah, actually, I had a question for you, Andy. Do you have a sense of how many people show up for, on average, for the hazmat days that we have out at the barn or at the other location?
From memory,
Yeah,
typically
just rough.
100 to 110 we'll have out there for various reasons, whether it's hazardous materials, whether they're dropping off
Shredding.
prescription drop-offs,
Sure.
whether they're for shredding. But typically 100 to 110 vehicles we'll have over the course of the morning.
Okay, fantastic. And then final question, what sense, based on the work you do, do you have of increases right now on new contracts that are being written, contract over contract?
Well, I want to be careful here with how I answer that question, because a
course.
percent change depends on where you were to this moment. If I were to throw out a ballpark of maybe 20% increase, I mean, it's been significant here recently because of these challenges in the industry. There are things we're going to make sure we're not having any cost drivers added to the contract that we don't absolutely need, so we look for every way that we can. The reason I'd be hopeful it's not that much here is because we're going to go with a longer initial term, and I mentioned in the presentation that every one of these private haulers will amortize their capital cost over the initial term of the contract. So going from a 5-year to a 7-year is another way that we can help try to maintain, keep costs down as much as possible. The rates are going up. That's the reality. There was a time maybe 7 years ago where if you put it back out to bid, you'd get a better rate. You'd get something lower. I've not seen that in a very long time, but I want to be careful about putting a real percentage on it because
I'm
it
looking
varies
for rough.
everywhere. Yeah.
We
I have
we
seen
may
them
have,
going up. That's the reality of the moment, but we're going to
Yeah.
do what we can to keep them from going up any more than they absolutely have to.
Yeah, I mean, what concerns me is, from what I understand, the administration negotiated a heck of a deal last time. So, we've got to try to match that performance so we can stay within 20% or whatever's realistic.
Right.
I'm worried it jumps even further,
Right.
hearing what we're hearing here. Thank you.
Yes, it's not the perfect moment to release an RFP for this, but it's the one
Right.
we've got to deal with. And if I may address one of the comments from the residents,
Absolutely.
there actually is a bottle bill being discussed at the federal level, so that would mean maybe bottle bills will be coming back. And the other thing I wanted to mention, and I know you all are aware of this, is with Broward County and their efforts on diversion, there may even be opportunity on the composting side and doing something with biosolids for fertilizer. So who knows, maybe with what the county's efforts are that we could end up addressing some of what your resident just mentioned, so.
Good, thank you,
Yep.
thank you. Anybody have any more questions? Andy?
No, I was just going to say thank you, Allison.
My pleasure, thanks.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
See you Saturday.
Okay, back to the agenda. We're postponing the quasi-judicial because we need the mayor here. Do we need a motion to move around, or do we just skip over it? Okay. Okay, we're going into public comment next. And who's got that?
We have one speaker, Vice Mayor, Marianne Allen.
Okay, Marianne Allen, 12701 Mustang Trail. Hi, everybody. One is a public service announcement for our farms. There is botulism poisoning going on with horses, and it's coming from spoiled hay, possibly feed. It's now in Florida. And I want our residents to be aware if your horse isn't feeling well, if it looks weak. Most of the time, by the time they're really sick, they die. So there is a vaccine from the veterinarians. It's an antidote that they can give them. And the second part of my speech actually has to do with poisoning, and something that has been really left out of our code enforcement. As you know, I platted my property, and I have some lovely neighbors. They're going to have their retirement home, thank God. And first they were going to plant arecas next to my horse farm. And then she told me this week that they decided to do clusia, which I've never heard of, so I thought, let me look it up. Clusia is very toxic and poisonous to horses, dogs, cats, whatever eats it. And that's all we need to do is have a horse that's, you know, I've had horses worth many thousands of dollars, but it's the fact that a child's pony, that's the world to that child, and we don't want to see our animals poisoned. So in the spirit of protecting our farms, which our charter demands that we do, we need to, all of you, need to sit down and think about an ordinance where you have a list of toxic plants that should not be planted in this area, especially next to farms where goats, cows, chickens, and horses can eat it and die. Even dogs can eat this because the clusia puts off berries. And anything that eats it is going to be poisoned. And I don't know if you've seen an animal that has been poisoned, the suffering that takes place. I've had to euthanize. I've been there to help people euthanize horses, but it's not pleasant. And poisoning is a terrible way to go because horses don't regurgitate. If they eat something bad, they can't throw it up. It goes through their system. So if you could please protect our farms. Our code only goes so far, and they don't want to step on anyone's toes. I understand that. But if they have direction from you saying, this is a list of toxic plants, I can send you the list from the SPCA of what is poisonous to animals, especially horses, dogs, and cats. And I would surely really appreciate it, our farms would appreciate it, if you could make sure that new construction, people that are planting new hedges, that there is a list that they can't plant from that are poisonous, even to children. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Miriam. Anybody else? Okay, that wraps up public comment. Board reports. Do we have anybody? George?
Good evening, Council, Vice Mayor. On behalf of the Drainage Board, we had our meeting the other day. We had an election of officers. Nothing really changed. We had the same people. We did have a big discussion regarding the bahia versus the different types of sods and the swales and the different slopes and the work that's currently going on our projects out west. We're investigating, you know, exactly some of the complaints that were there with regards to the slopes, 4-to-1 slope, 8-to-1 slope, how deep we're required to dig down in the right-of-ways, etc. So we're on top of that. It is very controversial throughout the town. I know Rod has been working due diligently out there for the last several months, trying to resolve some of the issues and see where we did things right and did things wrong. So we're working on that. Other than that, that's pretty much it for the Drainage Board. A few other odd topics, but nothing more than that. Thank you.
you, George.
No question. Mr. Morris, how you doing?
Great.
All right. During that meeting that I was at, and I think it's been a repeated comment of yours regarding the bahia grass. And this is that, and correct me if I'm wrong, you've said that once it's laid down, that eventually the other grass will take it over.
100%.
Okay. I made that statement to a neighbor yesterday. His response began with the word bull.
Okay.
Do you have anything that I can give him?
Scientific.
You don't have to give me. You don't have to give
or
me
yards.
now
I mean,
or
I could
sometime
show
in
you
the
a couple
future.
examples, but at the end of the day, the bahia grass doesn't have leaders. The Floritan does. The Floritan leaders will actually come out, you know, several yards. It will overtake it 100%. It would be the dominant grass of the two.
Yeah, I was just like, okay, I'll find something to give to you.
Bahia grass doesn't require edging. So if you plant it along a sidewalk, it doesn't grow across the sidewalk or into the street. I mean, that's, you know, fairly confident on that. I've seen that. Where Floritan will actually grow into the street, grow across the sidewalk, grow over landscape curbing, etc., because it does have the leaders. I've seen examples of it. If you want some specific, we can do a test run or go back to where we've planted it in the past before. But there's two sides of the story. I mean, I get both sides. At the end of the day, if it was, if you're the proud owner of a property and someone comes through your yard and they rip it up and they put bahia, I would be really upset too. On the other end, you're considering the financial costs and what the responsibilities of the city are for watering, maintenance, etc. So there's that side of the story. Both people, in my opinion, are right. You can argue both points successfully. At the end of the day, it's a financial commitment on the town if the town wants to go ahead and replace it with Floritan or anything else like that. I don't really have any objection. At the end of the day, the board, when we discussed the two different types of grass, it was a financial decision. I know the mayor is currently working on some sort of solution or payment or credit. I can't comment on that. I know he's working on that. That's in the process. But at the end of the day, we're an advisory board. It's an opinion of mine. You guys make the rules, but, I'm not here to upset anybody's, beauty and maintenance of the yard. I get both sides of the story. It's up to you 5 guys to figure it out and make a decision. But either way, do your investigation and look into it, and we'll support you.
Thank you for your educating us on that.
No problem.
Thank you, George. Yeah, just a little anecdotal. 178th, where I live, was repaved in 1994, I believe it was, when the Bailey Drainage District was turned over to South Broward Drainage. That was part of the deal that they repaved Rolling Oaks. And they put down bahia, and I had 600 feet of it, and you would never know it. 30 years later, it took like 5 to 10 years for the St. Augustine Floritan to grow in, but you would never know it, that there was ever bahia there. Now it's everything under the sun from the hurricanes, but that's a different story entirely.
That's good to know.
But I would
neighbor
also
to
like
talk
to add, bahia grass is sand grown. It's cut thicker. When it's thrown down, it falls apart in your hand, basically. It gets set down, it's clumpy. It needs to be rolled versus Floritan, which is grown in muck. It's typically an inch thick. Muck holds together. It lays down a lot nicer. So, that's one of the problems too, right? Somebody is being replaced with with bahia grass, and it's nasty, it's lumpy, it's hard to walk on. They're complaining about horses, and it's all true. It's all true. But over time, it will level itself out, and the other grass will take it over. So, short-term nightmare, long-term possibly the solution. But again, we're a recommendation board, and it was a recommendation.
It takes years. It's not an overnight process for the growth.
Thank you.
Thank you, George, very much. Okay, any more board reports? Seeing none. Go on to council member comments, and I will not be first. I'll be last. Bob, go ahead.
I'll go first.
And take your time.
Speak slowly. I just have one thing to cover tonight, folks. Something I've been working on for, actually, it's a couple of years now. I live out in country estates out west, and we have a pretty active homeowners association. Back about 4 years ago, before I got elected, we passed a resolution of the HOA to try to encourage the council to widen Griffin Road from Bonaventure out to 27. Now, I remember at one of our earliest council meetings, Lori Parrish was here, and she was a county commissioner at the time. And we were talking about widening all the way back then. And, her answer to me was, there's no traffic on Griffin Road. Well, even back then, there's no traffic on Griffin Road between 1 and 3 a.m. Other than that, there was traffic back then. But we're at the point now, all these years later, where yesterday my wife and I were heading out to 27 to go down to Sheridan Street. She clocked it. It took us 4 minutes just waiting for all the traffic to pass for us to get a break to cross over. So it's probably time. But a couple of years ago, the council had passed a resolution to widen Griffin Road. The process is the town's got to pass a resolution. It's got to get to the MPO. So then there was another issue that the council addressed a few years ago, and that is really the insanity at Griffin and call it Weston or Dykes. Anybody who goes through that intersection, it can be really crazy. And if you happen to live in Southwest Ranches and want to go right, you generally have to wait behind 10 cars in the afternoons because, again, the traffic has completely overwhelmed that intersection. The intersection should have been completely re-engineered probably 10 years ago, according to the engineers at the MPO. So when when there was an opportunity to go to work on the MPO, that's the Metropolitan Planning Organization. They make county-wide decisions on how the money is spent, and specifically on county roads as well, and Griffin Road is a county road. So when I was appointed by our council to sit on the MPO, I thought, aha, here's an opportunity to try to get these two projects done. So I met with the executive director to find out what it takes, and there are these lists you have to get on, but the biggest challenge that I asked for up front, they told us we had to comply with, is we have to get the support on Griffin out west from Weston, and for the intersection over at Griffin and Dykes, we have to have it from Weston and Davie, because the municipalities share in the traffic, and it impacts their residents as well. So initially, under a different administration, we really had a challenge with Weston in getting some of these things done. But around the time we were discussing this and the council passed the resolution, we had a resident out in Country Estates who was active in the HOA, Mary Molina McPhee, now known as Commissioner Mary Molina McPhee. So about 6 months ago, I met with her to discuss these two projects because they've been sitting out there forever and we needed their support. And she was excited. I mean, she travels Griffin Road all the time and knows how bad it is. And as well, I'm not sure if everybody's aware, but the two former entrances into Weston off of US 27 have been closed. The southmost one was recently closed because that whole area is going to become a water retention area over the next few years. It's about to undergo a huge construction project. So in her view, there's going to be that much more traffic on Griffin Road from the west side of Weston that would normally go out to 27 and go north or south. So she was all in favor of the two. The good news is that Weston voted on this, and I believe they put a resolution together and voted on it on Tuesday night, and it passed. We have one more hurdle, and I know Andy's been working with Davie to get their buy-in on this, and they will be voting on it next month at one of their town council meetings. So with those, we then, we're still on that list. We've been at the very bottom. They have this term I've learned, a term of art at the MPO. They call it the blue line of death. If your project is below that blue line, it's like creating a Southwest 184th. That project will probably never make it above the blue line. So, because it doesn't have support by us and probably from Pines either. But this one, now we have the support of the surrounding communities, and now it's up to us working the process and lobbying for this because we're competing against Weston, we're competing against all the other municipalities that are trying to get hold of the penny sales tax that we voted for a couple of years ago. So we'll be in line, and hopefully it will still be done in my lifetime. But we're advancing to the next step in the process. So for me, it's really exciting because finally, Southwest Ranches is going to have a project on the board. It's so frustrating to sit there and hear about all the projects they're doing in Pompano Beach and all the older municipalities that their infrastructure really needs some upgrades, and we sit there below the blue line of death. So my goal now over the next couple of years is to try to get us up there. So when you see those projects come to fruition, the widening and the redesign of Dykes Road, just remember this night because we just got over a major hurdle with one of our partners in the area. And Don't have any timelines, but I will report as things change. So I'm pretty excited about it.
Good.
That's all I have tonight, Vice Mayor.
That's it?
That's it.
Oh, my goodness. Dave, Jim?
Certainly. David Kaczynski, District 4. Thank you, everybody, for coming out this evening. Let me begin my comments that Mary Ann's comments about the fertilizer and trying to implement a program around here. I think it's a great idea. I think it would help reduce the organic waste that is a large part of the bulk that goes out. And if we can reduce that, I think that would help reduce our overall contract. That's just an opinion I have here. I received some inquiries about the damaged guardrails, particularly in Sunshine Ranches. There's one on Hancock at West Palomino. I guess a car had ran into that, and the guardrail kept the car from going into the canal, but it has been damaged for a while. And then not too long ago, a car was going from west to east on Sterling, and right at Holity ran into the guardrail there. And that guardrail is really mangled, and apparently looks like a purchase order is going to be going out tomorrow. Is that right, tomorrow? Okay, tomorrow. That we can get those guardrails rehabilitated and back to a more pleasant appearance than a mangled piece of metal on the side of the road.
Safe.
And safe. Bouncing a little off of Councilmember Hartman's comments about Weston. One issue that I brought up at the last meeting had to do with the bridge on Bonaventure Boulevard crossing the C11 canal from Griffin Road into Weston. For many, many, many years, our town has been wanting a dedicated equestrian path across that canal, across that bridge. Now, on both sides of the C11, that is both Southwest Ranches. Southwest Ranches goes right up to the fence line where the school is. And we have our equestrian residents that want to ride on both sides, and it's their right. And prior administration in Weston opposed it. With the recent changes, I met with the mayor not too long ago. The mayor said, I don't see a problem with it. So I started moving forward, say, hey, let's do this. Let's make a dedicated horse line where the horses can cross through. And I would like, my perfect vision would be that there would actually be plastic poles to protect the horses from the cars going by. That's what I would see as the best thing that we could possibly do. Hopefully that's something that can be facilitated. Now, dovetailing off the horse trails from the C11, last night Sunshine Ranches had their homeowners association meeting, and all of us monitored it. And just so everybody can understand the purpose of the council members there, we are prohibited from making comments on something that could be coming up as a quasi-judicial matter. That is, it's not something we decide to, that's state law. So it's not like we don't want to, we want to, but we can't. So I hope that the people that monitoring that meeting didn't think that we're kind of avoiding everything, trying to say, oh, we don't want to participate. No, this is, we want to protect the rights of everybody involved, and that's why we don't say anything. I can say that I was impressed with the presentation, and I can say that I was impressed with the dedication for horse trails. Those are really important matters for Sunshine Ranches and for the town in general, because we are Sunshine Ranches. Our logo has a horse as the biggest figure on the logo. So that's something that we should be embracing, and that presentation was far different than what we saw in 2020. And that's why I just want to say that the presentation itself was, I was impressed, and that the horse trails were really, really, really important to me. And then last, I did like Mary Ann's comment about us looking at an ordinance for toxic plants, and that's something I would like to look into from the town, if there's something we can implement to prohibit the planting of. I know some of it naturally grows. We can't do anything about that. I mean, the Melaleuca are not actually a favorable plant. So we can't just tell everybody, hey, guess what? You're going to have to start cutting it down at your cost. That's not going to happen here. But yeah, it would be something that I could see that I would like to explore that issue. Other than that, Vice Mayor, I think I'm done. I'm out of wind.
Thank you very much, Dave. Mr. Jim, Councilman Jim.
Vice Mayor, thank you. Thank you, residents. I got 4 short topics. I'll be brief. First is you heard Bob mention that he was appointed to the MPO. I had the opportunity and the pleasure of being appointed to the as a liaison for the Broward League of Cities. The Broward League of Cities is all the mayors and council people from all the municipalities, cities, and towns in Broward County. They meet once a month, and they're really a great bunch of people. They're out there fighting for every nickel and dime that we can get. Meeting last week, the presentation was on the amount of money coming from the government. There's trillions, not billions, it's trillions of dollars that's going to be given out to communities all over the United States. And we have probably one of the best group here that goes after that money for the guardrails and for the town projects that we do. But $3 to $4 to $5 trillion out there that's coming back. And I was really impressed with how hard all the mayors and the council people all over Broward County are fighting for that money to make Broward County better. Everybody's envious of me living in Southwest Ranches. They all want to move here, but they can't afford it. So, yeah. But I told them I was probably born and raised here. I've been here since '85. I come at the most perfect time to come out here, and they all just love the area. They all come out here to see what's going on out here. Second item is the Green Meadows drainage project. We had residents last meeting complaining that they hadn't been notified. There was a meeting, not well attended, but the next project that starts in Green Meadows, I think we'll do a much better job on reaching out to the community and telling them, you know, what's coming. This phase now is just about wrapped up. The contractor's cleaning up. He's starting to put the grass down. He's cleaning up. The roads will take a while, but I do believe that because the roads are such a mess that we might get pushed up on that TISDOR list to get repaved sooner than some of the others because the roads are a mess right now. Civic Association, you know, I've been trying very hard to start or restart our Green Meadows Civic Association. Have a lot of interest now because of the drainage projects. I've been able to meet with a lot of the residents, talk to them, and explain to them that if we have a civic association, we can all discuss these issues without me having to go door to door. We can all get together and discuss them. So the Civic Association, we have probably 10, maybe 12 people that are interested. So we might try to do some type of a Zoom meeting in the future to see if we can't get that restarted. The paperwork's ready to go. All we have to do is elect the officers. And last, March the 1st, here at Town Hall at 7 o'clock, the Public Safety and Transportation Traffic Committee will meet. We have a member sitting here this evening of that committee. There's one from each district, and I'm very proud to say that they hit the ground running. We'll have the police chief here from Davie next meeting, so I encourage everybody in the audience to come, sit in, participate. We need your participation to make this work. So with that, I conclude. Our mayor is here, and now we can get down to business. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jim. I'll bring up my comments, and then we'll wait and see if I can eat up enough time if the mayor has any comments. Just a few announcements. Hey, Mayor.
We sold your chair.
You know, you weren't
Put
here.
it out for bid.
We took a photo of the council.
You snooze, you lose. You know? We've got hazmat at the barn on March 12th with shredding and prescription drug drop-off. We have the same day we have the barn dance from the Education Advisory Board on the 12th of March. The Broward County Property Appraiser is going to be here on March 17th from 10 to 12. The DMV Flowmobile will be back on the 23rd. That's an appointment only. Contact Deborah at the clerk's office for to use their services. We have the 5K coming up that benefits the scholarship fund at the barn on the 9th of April, 6 a.m., right?
8 p.m., 8 a.m. start time, sorry.
Okay, 8 a.m. start time. But pre-register, it's available on the website, 20 some odd dollars. It's a lot of fun. And you get to see Rolling Oaks, at least the southern end. We have the Easter Bunny coming to the barn in Rolling Oaks on the 2nd of April at 11 a.m. We've already mentioned the garbage meeting, trash meeting, waste production meeting. That's on this Saturday. I want a big shout out to Broward County. On the way over here, I noticed they replaced all the bollards on Volunteer and Griffin Road in that turn lane by the Shell station there. All brand new ones.
Yes.
Yeah, and it looks really good. So,
yeah.
and I could see the traffic backed up because everybody was like, maneuvering around it. So doing that. And I have a couple requests for the legal department. I've been asked by various residents, and I myself included. I want to know what are the boundaries for the new home business law in the state of Florida. That's one item. And some other residents have asked me if Keith or you at some later date could clarify who is a town parliamentarian and what those duties include. So, and I'll wrap it up with that. Mayor, you walked in just in time for me to formally give you the gavel back.
Thank you, sir.
Rock and roll. And if you have some comments, or do you want me to take a 2-minute recess?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
I'm good.
All right.
Thank you, though.
All right.
Yeah, just a couple of quick comments. I did want to thank everybody for their indulgence at an event I needed to go to, so thank you. Not sure what was already covered, so I'll just cover a couple of things. I wanted to, first of all, thank you all. I've received quite a bit of feedback. I had been requesting it both at the council and in the newsletter for feedback regarding the upcoming waste contract and your thoughts, the things that you thought were important to keep, the things that you thought maybe were not that important. Certainly we're going to try and really tailor the contract this time for the things that are most important. For a number of reasons, we expect costs to go up. So our goal is to minimize that and to get the most value that we can out of the next contract, focusing on those things that are most critical to our residents. I will say that, and this is not a bad thing, but just about every suggestion that I've gotten, I have gotten the counter suggestion to do the exact opposite. So if you sent me a note, please don't be disappointed if it doesn't go exactly the way you hoped it will, because we have a large, diverse group of residents here, and so we have different opinions about different things. But there are a number of things that we got a good consensus on that I think we can build on and work towards. So that is awesome. So thank you for that. And I really encourage you to come out on Saturday and participate in the waste event that's coming up. And you know what? I'm gonna stop there. Once again, thank you for your indulgence. I sincerely appreciate it. All right. Okay, so we are at legal comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. There's no legal comments tonight.
All right, thank you. All right, Andy.
I didn't have anything, but you missed one, Mayor, that I know is near and dear to your heart.
Yes, sir.
And that is the fact that we have been working very aggressively, and I'll compliment December on this, on a farmer's market for the soon-to-be renamed Town 5 Owned Acres. whatever.
Awesome,
whatever
awesome.
that-
Yeah,
whatever
you
the
know,
That will be.
I-
But we think we're going to be able to get started this year, kick off at the end of March, and go into April before we break for the summer. So we're fine tuning some of those details now, and I know this is something you've advocated for a long time. So it looks like it's coming to fruition at this point, and we're looking forward to getting that going.
I really appreciate that. Thank you for reminding me of that. I know I've been talking to the HOAs about it. I really see this as an event that really is all about our town. You know, it is who we are. And so I can't be more excited to see it all coming together. I'm really looking forward to seeing it happen and building on it. I think it'll be a great event, the first event, but I think as we go through it and we get more and more resident involvement, it'll be even better and better. So super excited. Thank you for bringing that up.
I was going to say, the goal will be to kick it off for about 4 to 6 weeks. And typically farmers markets stop, take a break over the summer. So we're looking to have, I'll say, get it started this spring, develop some momentum. We've got a good partner that we're working with. We're excited about it. And based on that, we'll only build coming into the fall.
Awesome.
And that's really all I had, Mayor. Thank you.
Great, great. Thank you. All right, item number 10.
I think this is a companion item with one of the quasi-judicial items.
Russell,
Mayor.
may I interrupt?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, Mayor, we skipped item 4
Okay.
because you weren't here. So item 4
Oh, so we're
and
going-
10 are the same applicant. And just want
Thank
to
you.
back up to 4
Thank you for
perhaps
the
before
correction.
we do 10.
Yeah, item number 4, please.
This is a resolution in final order of the Town Council of the Town of Southwest Ranches, Florida, approving application number SP-82-22 to modify the approved Akai Estate site plan located within the Tower Plat at the southwest quadrant of Griffin Road and unimproved southwest 184th Avenue, authorizing the mayor, town administrator, and town attorney to execute any and all documents necessary to properly effectuate the intent of this resolution and providing an effective date. This is a quasi-judicial item, Mayor. I believe we have, the attorney will read the rules of evidence, and then we need to swear in the witnesses as well.
Yeah, can you hold there for a moment, Russell? Mayor, I apologize. Let me jump in again.
Yeah.
I know that there's a representative here for the applicant. There may be other people who are coming, and we had said to them that we didn't expect you until 8:30.
Right.
So I want to ask that. I just want to ask Michael if there are other people who are coming. We could do items 11 and 12, and then come back to 4 and 10 if there are other people coming, because I want to make sure they're properly represented. Okay, so you're ready to proceed. You're ready to proceed. Okay, thank you.
Please be advised that the following item on the council agenda is quasi-judicial in nature. All witnesses who will testify on any item in this portion of the agenda will be sworn. Participants who are members of the general public need not be sworn and will not be subject to cross-examination if they are not sworn. However, the council shall not assign unsworn testimony the same weight or credibility as sworn testimony in its deliberations. The applicant has the burden of proof. After the applicant's concluding remarks, the hearing will be closed and no additional testimony, material, or argument will be allowed unless the council chooses to request additional testimony. The members of the town council will then deliberate. All evidence relied upon by reasonably prudent persons in the conduct of their affairs may be considered in these proceedings, regardless of whether such evidence would be admissible in a court. Hearsay evidence may supplement or explain other evidence, but shall not alone support a conclusion unless it would be admissible over objection in court. The material in the town council agenda will be considered as evidence without authentication. Anyone representing an organization must present written evidence of his or her authority to speak on behalf of the organization in regard to the matter under consideration. Each person who appears during a public hearing shall identify himself or herself and give their address, and if appearing on behalf of an organization, state the name and mailing address of the organization. The council may, on its own motion or at the request of any person, continue the hearing to a fixed date, time, and place. No notice shall be required if a hearing is continued to a fixed date, time, and place. Any applicant shall have the right to request and be granted one continuance. However, all subsequent continuances shall be granted at the discretion of the council and only upon good cause shown.
If you're going to testify on this item, if you would please stand and raise your right hand. Do you swear that the testimony you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Okay, thank you.
And at this time, is staff prepared to present?
No, not at all. Yes. Okay, this is maybe the first staff report where the conditions are substantially longer than the report itself. Not a reflection on the site plan, it's just the way it worked out. The petitioner is requesting approval to modify the Akai Estate site plan to reconfigure access to their site, update the entrance improvements to reflect what's been constructed, and to expand the scope of the landscape plans. The revised plans reflect abandoning the temporary access from Griffin Road that went through the church, the adjacent church parcel, and a frontage road in the Griffin right-of-way, and the permanent intended and platted community entrance from Southwest 184th Avenue, the latter of which would become an open space parcel for the community. An application to vacate the community entrance on 184th Avenue, the associated turn lane, and the turnaround easement at the north end of the site accompanies this application. Broward County Highway Construction and Engineering Division has consented to the new access configuration and is currently processing an application to create an opening in the non-vehicular access line along Griffin Road. That may have actually been accomplished by now. The applicant can update us on that. The permanent Griffin Road access will require Akai to construct an eastbound right turn lane into the project. Previously, Broward County eliminated the requirement that the developer construct Southwest 184th Avenue and relocate the canal and authorize temporary access from Griffin Road via the temporary frontage drive. The proposed site plan reconfigures the entryway landscaping given the elimination of the frontage road. It eliminates the proposed sign at the 184th Avenue and Griffin Road intersection and reflects a guardhouse, modifications to the location, design, and size of the entry feature, and a 7-foot wall that separates the community entrance from Lot 1. All of the aforementioned improvements have been permitted and constructed, but were not reflected on the approved site plan. The recommendations, staff recommends that a council approval be conditioned on the following. 1, council approval of the accompanying application to vacate the rights-of-way and easements that I just mentioned. Number 2, the petitioner grant a minimum 15-foot wide recreational trail easement through Southwest 49th Street, located, should say, east of Akai Drive, and along the west side of the canal over the South Broward Drainage District Canal Maintenance Easement and portions of road easement where applicable, connecting to Griffin Road and providing an opening in the landscaping for access to and from Griffin Road. The access point at Griffin may be gated, provided that the gate remains open from dusk to dawn, as may be further defined in the easement agreement. Step-ups should be located adjacent to the Griffin Road access and at the southern end of the trail easement, subject to design and location approval by the town administrator and South Broward Drainage District. The easement shall be planted with bahia grass or, if irrigated, St. Augustine sod over a minimum 1-inch topsoil. Petitioner shall either grade the easement to slip away from the canal or install a lip at the top of the bank to keep stormwater runoff from entering the canal, as approved by South Broward Drainage District. The easement shall provide for homeowners association maintenance of the trail, permissible gating, and indemnification of the town in a form acceptable to the town attorney. HOA docs shall be amended to reflect these requirements, and such amendments approved as to form by the town attorney. Well, that was just one condition. Petitioner shall revise the landscape plans consistent with staff comments and to ensure that trail users can access Griffin Road. We're asking that you authorize staff to approve those landscape plan revisions. This is just to give the applicant some flexibility.
Excuse me, George, if you guys are going to talk, if you can please. Thank you.
This is just to give the applicant some flexibility so that we can work through the landscaping plans together. petitioner, successor and assigns, shall be responsible for maintaining the private road and the recreational trails within the plat, and shall indemnify and hold the town harmless for same. Show the lot lines extending to the center line of the road, south of lots 1 through 4, and address other minor technical staff comments to be approved administratively. The comments set forth above shall be satisfied no later than March 28th of this year, and prior to the issuance of any further building permits for a residence, provided that the town administrator may grant a single 30-day extension upon a show of good cause. This is just to get everything going so that things don't linger. There's nothing magical about that date, and the applicant's aware of that. Failure to satisfy these conditions within the time frame set forth would cause the site plan to be null and void. No lot may be transferred in title unless the power of attorney or other legal documents acceptable to the town attorney have been granted to the petitioner for purposes of obtaining and maintaining unity of control for approval and effectuating the site plan modification. This is simply because some lots are beginning to transact, and there may be more than one owner on this within this property. South Broward Drainage District approval is required for any plantings and drainage easements. Broward County Highway Construction and Engineering Division approval is required for signage, landscaping, and frontage road improvements. Shouldn't say frontage road. Signage, landscaping improvements within the Griffin Road right-of-way. No gates or other barriers or hindrances to entry are permitted in conjunction with the guardhouse. Speed bumps or a similar device may be employed to slow cars as they approach the guardhouse for the purpose of recording license plates, provided that vehicles, bicycles, and pedestrians shall not, and equestrians, if that's the case, shall not be required to stop, produce identification, or any other restriction or hindrance to entering and traversing Akai Drive, Southwest 49th Street, and the trail easements. And finally, construction of any models with associated signage and parking, and any construction trailer shall require permits and require administrative approval. I'm finished.
Awesome. Great. Thank you, Jeff.
Is the applicant present? And would the applicant like to present any evidence?
Come up to the mic, please. Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you. Excuse me, could you talk
Speak
into
up.
the mic?
Take your face mask
Please,
off,
yeah.
please.
It might be,
Yeah.
it might be.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
they
Yeah,
can hear you better like that.
And just a little
That would be
closer
much
to the
better.
microphone.
If you're comfortable, that would be much
Let's switch
better.
it out for a second. I think that one might be dead.
Do I need to repeat everything? or-
Just please,
Yes,
yeah, please state your name and the name of
My name is Louis Leon. I'm with the firm of Schwepke, Shiskin and Associates, and I'm here on behalf of the developer to speak about the project. I don't believe there's anything really for me to present. I didn't bring anything. I think everything that Jeff stated was correct and accurate. My only understanding and what I wasn't clear about was the trail. I know the developer has asked us to prepare some exhibits, which unfortunately I didn't bring with us, but to propose a trail along the west side of the canal, but to run south of the 49th Street, previous 49th Street platted entrance. And I don't know if that's something that we need to talk about here, or if that needs to be done at a different location, okay, here. So what the proposal from the developer is to construct and install the horse trail to run south along the west side of the canal instead of running north to Griffin Road. So I guess that was something that we need to request as part of this meeting. Is that something you folks would be open to allowing the developer to do as opposed to running the horse trail to the north?
Yeah, we'll have a time to discuss when, I think that would be the appropriate.
Correct, Mayor. So right now, you're doing your presentation as the applicant on behalf of the applicant, and once you're done, and then we'll open it up and we can move into that section of it in a
Okay.
little bit.
All right, terrific. there's really nothing else for me to present. I mean, I'm the engineer. I'm not an attorney. I'm not an equestrian specialist, so I really couldn't tell you much more than that.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor, can I ask the applicant a question?
Absolutely.
Can you give us the status of the non-vehicular access line amendment?
Ron Fritz is the gentleman that's processing the NVAL vacation through the county. Ron, he's also from Sharp Creek.
And I just want to confirm both of you were sworn in, correct?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yeah, the NVA line's all been approved by the county. It's waiting on.
Can you just introduce yourself, please?
Ron Fritz from Swepke and Associates.
Thank you.
And, but the NVA line's been approved and.
By the county commission?
No, not by the county commission, but by staff. And they're waiting for, town approval. Once they receive the resolution from the town, then they'll record the, revision to the, into the non-vehicle line.
Okay.
Any other questions, Jeff? No. Okay. All right, any other presentations from the applicant? Okay, and now we'll open it up to the public. If the public has any comments on this quasi-judicial matter?
Noel Hollingsworth, 199th Avenue. You've been burned once on a gate. Sessa doesn't have a gate. And you're hearing that they want a gate. The answer is no. No gate. That is a word which brings out pitchforks and burning torches in our town. So, I want no gate. 24 hours a day, go through, could be private streets, public overlay. That's what I want to see. And no gate, no stopping. If they want to put a speed bump so the cars slow down so they can get a picture with their camera of the license plate, that's fine. But that guard is to be completely and totally bored as far as coming and going of people. I don't want to hear about it. I don't want to see about it. And I want it carved in stone in this agreement. Nowhere. Now, the no drive line should be on the east side of their property and the north side of their property. The east side is very simple. We have said no entrance to 184th if it's ever constructed. So a no drive line needs to be put there. So they cannot enter at all, ever, even when it's built in the future. So, that we have in the comprehensive plan. So, you want to change the comprehensive plan? Fine. We can argue about that. It's very specific what it says in there. There's only one spot there can be an entranceway on 184th on the west, and that's already dedicated. There is no entrance on the east side of 184th at all for vehicular traffic. Key there, vehicular traffic. So, let's get this right. And also, has anyone looked at the homeowner's document and incorporation papers the way Sessa's were looked at? Because if not, put in a rule, any law or ordinance of the town of Southwest Ranches takes 100% priority over the homeowner's document, and that must be immediately removed from the homeowner's document if it's there, if you don't want to take a look at it, and make it part of the homeowner's document. So, no gate, no drive line on 184th and Griffin, and no gate. We've been burned once, and we said we'd never be burned again. Thank you.
Thank you, Noel.
At this point, the applicant has another chance for a final argument.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch this gentleman's name, but
No.
basically, everything that he said is correct. There won't be a gate, and there will be no drive entrance from 184th.
We're not going to go back and
no.
forth, right?
Horse trail.
Yeah, I think that's all that was mentioned was a horse trail along that side.
Okay.
But yeah, no entrance, no vehicular entrance from 184th. That was correct.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Anything else from the applicant? Okay. At this point, town staff has the opportunity to make any final comments or discussion.
Thanks. Just to clarify that the applicant's not proposing a gate at the main entrance off of Griffin. I made a comment that the staff wouldn't object to an equestrian gate, just to be able to control, to monitor access in and out of the property, so that folks aren't coming in and, off the trail at nighttime on horseback to steal TVs, as we all know happens all the time. But yeah, that was just a staff comment that if the petitioner was interested in that we didn't have an objection to that.
Okay. Now, at this time, we're going to go over what this is. This is a quasi-judicial hearing, so your decision needs to be based upon competent substantial evidence that's been presented by the applicant, and that's also part of the staff report in the backup. And with that, you're going to be able to either approve with conditions, or deny the application. Now, at this point, before we start our deliberations, I'm going to ask that any disclosures of ex parte communications, and we'll start with the vice mayor and
Yeah.
go down the line.
Yes, I spoke to one of the neighbors that backs up to the property in Rolling Oaks, Matt Titaglia.
Okay.
I spoke over a year ago. I spoke to a couple of the principals. When I first was elected mayor, they came and spoke to me about the project. Not this particular item, of course, but the project as a whole.
Okay.
I haven't had any communications with the developers, but received a number of emails from residents out in Rolling Oaks the day after the discussion was had at the, the Parks Board on the potential of some routing of the trails. Past that, that's all I can recall.
Let me just say,
Sure.
I've
We all got
obviously
that.
received a lot of emails from
Sure.
residents
We
as
all
well.
got that.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Fair.
I also received a lot of those emails. I had discussions with residents regarding in country estates and members of the Parks Board, and no discussions whatsoever with the applicant.
No, sir, I've had no discussions with the applicant, just the same emails that the other council members received.
Okay, and notwithstanding all those emails and discussions and ex parte communications that were disclosed, will you base your decision solely on the evidence that's been presented at this quasi-judicial hearing?
Yes.
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 Okay. Everybody attend yes? Okay, now we're going to turn it over to the council for deliberations.
Very good. I know I've got some comments, but let me, Gary, you want to kick us off here?
Yeah, this is my backyard, so a lot of comments and stuff like that. I know the trail on the west side of the canal would be limited, the one that has the gate up on the north end and a dead end on the south end. I've got a solution that I think will work. But we have to stay up here at the high altitude level with the understanding that 184th is eventually going to get built. So the solution I'm proposing is that we maintain the right-of-way all the way over to the canal, that we keep that, the horse trail right-of-way. However, during the time between now and when 184th gets built, we put the trail that it comes in from 49th, and we go north on Akai Drive. I think it's safer for horses, pedestrians, bicyclists, whatever. Again, they can cut across. There's ample room in the swale area on front of lot number 1 and Griffin Road, and they can get over to David's crosswalk much easier. And plus, there's room there for horses to stage if they have to get across. The trail, when we do put in 184th, a trail is going to be part of that. So that's kind of a given, you know, that we're going to have that all along there. But I think this pertains, so when that opens up, that we'll have the trail that can cut through to 184th, whenever that is. But in the meantime, as a temporary, which may last a few years, admittedly, we come in off 49th and go north on Akai Drive. On the west side, I think there's like 10 or 15 feet of space that they can landscape it for a trail. There's no gate on the entrance. It's open 24/7. Horses can come and go. They can come over to the intersection and cross over onto David's crosswalk.
Yep.
And no pressure, Dave. Get it in. But I'd like to propose that for consideration versus what we've got up here right now, considering with the horse trail. I don't see that as viable.
Gotcha.
Vice Mayor,
Yeah, go ahead.
would that be a deed restriction you would make sure that was embedded in this project?
A deed restriction in what way? I'm sorry.
That your proposal that you just discussed be put into the restriction on the development.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
I'm committed to the trail cutting through the project
Certainly.
and getting to 184 whenever that gets in there. But we might be talking 5 years. We might. I mean, you know, I remember in 1995 we were talking about some ridiculous, crazy theme about making our own town here, and then Broward County kind of did it for us. Like a year later, in 1996. So,
Right.
you know, it's
Never know.
this stuff can come out of nowhere.
Right.
You know, 184th could get built in 5 years. Could get built in. It's on the 2045 plan right now.
That's below that blue line of death.
Yeah, but that can easily go in a different direction
It
with
can.
politics
With we lobby.
and money. You know, but in the meantime, I think this solves a lot of problems. Horse safety, equestrian safety, pedestrian safety. The area is going to be lit. This isn't going to be somebody's backyard because you're butting up to two backyards. I know I would have a real serious concern if it was one of my backyards, you know, with people coming through there and with no lighting or, you know, what have you. So I think this solves a lot of the temporary problems that are going to come up from this. And we could put it in the deed restriction that, you know, the right of way, once 84th built, it closes off on this end and goes on that end.
Yep.
You know,
Um,
that's a solution.
Yeah, I got a couple questions,
Go ahead,
but
go ahead.
anybody else?
All right. I'm going to go over some of my comments.
No, I'm
here.
sorry. Just about,
Yeah.
because I don't think you're done yet, right?
Well, no,
This is, as far as the trail, what Gary just proposed, is there any comments about the trail itself?
I'd support it.
Yeah?
I adamantly support it, but one of the things that I was really embracing was the trails, not the bridge, but the trails that were passed by the Parks Board.
Yeah.
I think horse trails are important to our town.
Absolutely.
And I don't want to say it's a deal breaker, but it almost is.
It
with
almost
me.
is, yeah.
I mean, it's that important to me. And
But the trail will be there.
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry.
One of the real important things, and I learned this last night, is designate those horse trails, have those established before concrete is laid down for a home. Because those new homeowners must know behind their home, they're going to see horses going back and forth.
Yeah.
And that's really important that they know that, because I don't want a homeowner coming forward, standing up here at the podium, why are there horses coming behind my house? And we sat here on February 24th, 2022, saying that this is what they're going to do. And it's a shock to them, but they have to know that.
Yeah, yeah, and that's kind of that was where I was going as well. I think, and I'm not saying you're not, I kind of want to make sure I understand what your proposal is. I love your proposal. I think it makes, a ton of sense. But what I don't want to do is I don't want to give up that trail that was going to run north-south along the canal.
I don't think we have to, because when.
Yeah, but you didn't state that. I just want to make sure that's where we're going.
That trail is going to go in from Griffin to Sheridan someday.
Well, it
With the
is,
roadway, with
it
the roadway.
is, but to the point that David just made, if we don't make it clearly delineated now, people will forget it's there. And there will be, as Newell say, we could be out here with pitchforks, trying to put it in later. So I want to make sure it's crystal clear that it is there on this site plan, on this proposal. We won't use it right now. We'll go the route that you're going, which I think makes a ton of sense. But I don't in any way want to give up. I know in the
Well, I'm
proposal.
not asking that.
Yeah.
I'm asking if
Okay.
you
I just
get
want to make sure.
Because you're going to have a road, we're going to have, when 84 goes through, we've already done that profile sketch of the trail, the berm, the road, the 2-lane road. We've already been, we've been down that road
Yeah.
more times than I, care to admit to.
Yeah.
And a trail is an integral part of that. And if it means dedicating that right away or whatever that is now, so be it.
Right.
Even though we know it's not being used right now, but it will be when 84 gets built. When
Right.
84 gets built.
Exactly. So Jeff, my question to you is, I've seen what I thought in the original plans, or really the plans that are in front of us right now, that trail goes north. What's being proposed here is that trail goes south. Do we have to make changes to ensure that, like, I think what we're saying, and we're going to get a consensus before we go forward, but the proposal here would be that we would not ask them to develop that, but we want it set in stone that that trail is there all the way up north, but we can, guide the equestrians north on Akai Drive.
Right. So this is a temporary measure, as the Vice Mayor said, to route the horses along the street, along Akai Drive. The fact is, the town adopted a greenways plan. The greenways plan shows that segment going north. So we have the ability, we're not abandoning that in any way, shape, or form. We're just making a temporary accommodation.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let me ask, just from council standpoint, is there any concerns with that? Are we good with that?
I think that it should also include horse mounts. They can get on and off the horse that we've seen periodically throughout the town.
Well, I think what we're saying is those trails we would be going up Akai Drive, so those
Right.
trails would not be used right now. So I don't know if I would ask them to put horse mounts that are not going to be used for.
We could put one up there around the staging area at the.
We could put, yeah.
intersection.
Up by the light. I mean, that's,
Yeah.
because somebody may want to walk their horse across traffic if,
fine.
Yeah.
and something like that. But you're talking about, a couple of posts and a couple of 2x4s
Right.
as part of the landscaping. We've got them in our neighborhood.
Yep. Okay. So I think we're good. So do we need to, I'm sorry. Jim?
Jim, did
No, I'm
you-
good with it, thank you. We're not giving up the trail along that
No, sir.
side. We're just making it a temporary trail until things are built in the future.
Exactly.
That's all. We're not giving anything up.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
That's correct.
And Mr. Mayor, if I may, for
Yes,
a
sir.
general sense, I have to say that I am a bit disappointed that the individual that is, that has I guess, the drawings that they had spoken of, doesn't have them to present to us this evening. That, I mean, they have a decision. When they could decide to put this on a hearing tonight, or they can postpone it. And he said out here he wants to set it tonight. So he wants to push this project forward, but he's not fully prepared, in my opinion, because he doesn't have all of this evidence that I would like to have. And that, I mean, I don't know whether it's competency or whether they're candid. So that really draws a concern to me regarding the overall. So just letting that out.
Thank
Thanks.
you. Thank you. So Gary, like you said, this is kind of in your backyard. Is there any other items that you wanted to bring forth?
No, not really. That was really the main thing.
Yeah.
You know, but that, you saw all the emails, you know.
Yep.
What a hornet's nest got stirred up
Yeah.
on that.
Yeah.
And I don't think we want to go back down that road.
Yeah, and that's a great point. Look, I think, you know, I'm happy to put on the record, I think we're probably all happy to put on the record that we do not support a bridge going across there.
Any access.
Any access, you know,
I
no
wanted to go on the
matter,
record with that
yeah.
also.
Vehicle, non-vehicle, pedestrian, doesn't matter. We recognize that that community is one way in, one way out, and I think as a council, we are united in supporting that. So there is no plan for any sort of a bridge across the canal in any way.
Would like to hear that from them.
Yeah,
Or
well-
that go on the plat notes.
Yeah.
Because I know how strongly the community feels about that, and we certainly don't want that being turned around some way legally years from now.
Yeah.
Are we
Well,
finished with
it's
the
in the
trail?
comp plan, though.
Sorry?
It's in the comp plan.
It's in the comp plan, yeah.
It's in the comp plan that no bridges are allowed across that canal?
Yeah.
There's no access.
No
to the
access.
east.
Okay. I don't recall that
No,
from the comp plan.
no eastern access off of.
Okay, that's good enough. I mean, if
Yeah.
it's there.
Yep.
I did have a question. There's a term that was used tonight, Jeff, that I'm not aware of, a no-drive line. What does that mean?
Oh, it's a non-vehicular access line, and that it is that's a segment of right-of-way where no driveway access is permitted to a county or state road, generally a county or state road. In this case, Griffin Road. There was one for 184th, which really isn't applicable right now, but it's the county's way of limiting driveway locations to specific openings that they've approved and not allowing them anywhere else in the interest of traffic flow and traffic safety.
I see. Good, good. I just had one other item to bring up, and it's also more or less a question for you, Jeff.
No, I can't hear you.
Sorry. In terms of the HOA docs, I remember that became an issue with two of the subdivisions that were developed recently, and it kind of goes all the way back to the gated community that Newell was making reference to. When in the process will the HOA docs be approved by the town's attorney for this? I mean, should we be approving this with that, or is that something that comes down the line later on?
Right, that's a good question. Because this is an amendment to the site plan, it's not a site plan approval. It's happened. So when the council approved the original site plan, and I think it was 2017, the town attorney and town staff did review the HOA documents and reviewed them for the issues that were sensitive at the time, such as no prohibition on keeping of animals, no street lights, no sidewalks, etc. They were not reviewed in the same to the same breadth that the Circle S HOA docs were reviewed. That was sort of a new council policy that was established at Circle S in terms of how far we wanted to go and dictating the terms of HOA doc provisions. And that got into all sorts of things like no architectural restrictions, essentially trying to strip out the things that make HOAs HOAs in order to make them less like HOAs and more like an entity that maintains streets and drainage swales and stuff like that, not one that controls how you live. Right. That type of review was not done for Akai because, again, there was a new policy that was established well after the fact, well after the site plan was approved by council. So that's where that stands.
So can we make that a stipulation of approval here for review of those documents?
I'm going to say yes, but defer to the town attorney because since at this point, I don't know if there's been if the lot transaction is closed, the one sale that I was aware of, and I'm not sure if that's even germane, but I'm going to defer to the town attorney on that question.
I would support that too.
So say that one more time exactly what you.
So we're talking about the HOA docs
Right.
and some of the controls that they put in place, the HOAs or the builders put in place, developers put in place. And we've gone over some in the past few years that required revision because they were trying to control whether you could have animals, et cetera.
Right.
We had a more recent review with Circle S that was, we're trying to get away from the HOA controlling people's lives. So can we stipulate the changes that are being requested here for another review of the HOA docs?
I mean, you can put in any conditions that you want. If that's a condition that you want to put in there, you can absolutely add that in there. As long as you're asking for a review of the current HOA docs that are in place be reviewed as to this parcel. I
think that's the
understanding you?
intent.
Okay. Yeah, you can absolutely put that condition in there.
Now, Jeff also brought something else up about there's a piece of one of the properties is either closed or about to close, and whether that has any bearing on.
What's the status of that?
I don't know. I'd have to ask the petitioner.
Can you please step up here? And again, I don't believe you stood up and were sworn in, so we may need to swear you in if you're going to come and speak.
I'm Michael Sakachevsky.
Were you sworn in?
I don't know.
Okay, if you raise your right hand and repeat after me. Do you swear that the testimony you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
What was the question?
Sure, Jeff, what was?
Has any of the lots been sold yet?
The closing was to happen yesterday or today or tomorrow. I'm not aware of whether it in fact happened. I know documents have been signed and everything's done. I don't know if it actually got registered yet today.
Okay.
Yeah, and as far as I know, that makes no difference because the developer still controls, and
Correct.
there was, I had talked to the transactional attorney for the developer who indicated that a power of attorney would be executed so that Akai still had total control over all site plan matters and should still therefore have total control over the HOA and the docks.
Yeah, so we're fine on that end as long as there's power of attorney.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the
Well,
only thing I
I
would
was going to
say,
say, how does everybody else feel about
yeah,
this?
and the only thing I would say on that is that what we're really saying is we're asking for a review. Since we haven't looked at them yet, we can't put a condition here to say change this or this or this to eliminate one or the other, you know?
Well, from what I understood, and Jeff, correct me if I'm wrong, the site plan has already, the HOA docs have already been reviewed under the original site plan.
one.
So those are in place right now. So if we want changes to those, we require a review and then do the review. And now, to Steve's point, I don't know how that then happens.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have a list of requirements today as we take the vote.
I'll make a couple of comments that hopefully help. Number one, when it was done for CC Homes, you didn't have it either. But what you did do is say no restrictions other than, and I think we listed a few that were allowed. But it was basically no restrictions on architecture, use, animals, vehicles, color, all this kind of stuff. And that.
But I think we'd already reviewed, I mean, I wasn't on the council when that happened, but my understanding was that the council, and I think Gary, you in particular, had gone through those documents in detail.
Yeah, big time on Circle S. I was going to
So you could then come here and really say this and this.
Yeah,
and this.
what Keith had mentioned was that we had included in the quasi-judicial that they had to adhere to all the town codes. And he said that covered it.
Yeah. And my point is that you could use the same motion essentially for this that you used for Circle S, that'd be subject to the same restrictions. But the second thing I would say is that as a practical matter, this is a very different development than even Circle S, in a sense. These are lots that probably aren't going to support any animals, for example, because of the age of this plat and the size and the shape of the lots, the amount of drainage and all that stuff that's on these lots, the style of homes, all sorts of things sort of make this, even the guardhouse, nobody else has one of those. It's a different community than most of the ones that we've seen, than all of the ones we've seen, I'd say. So I'm just throwing that out there in terms of applying the same rationale to this community to the extent that that makes any difference in your consideration.
I think if we just have them adhere to the town codes,
I think so too.
you know, and if they want any exceptions from that, they have to come back to us, because that's what Circle S did.
Yep.
Which, you know, you were involved, you were
Yeah.
you were my counselor when all that was going on, you and Jim. And, you know, there was a few minor exceptions. They wanted in Circle S's case, they said, can we do a TED shed instead of a container? And they said, and I thought that was okay.
Right.
You know, but the point was that they allowed you know, something else on there, you know, and the size of the mailbox or whatever it was. There was something about the original colors that after they transferred over the documents, that the homeowners could change the colors to whatever they wanted. There was some little, you know, subtle things like that.
If I might add,
Yeah.
from my knowledge, I remember reading the HOA documents a couple of years ago. We didn't have any restriction. We complied with all of the town rules on restrictions of animals. There's no restrictions of animals and no restrictions of any of the other things. And everything, to my knowledge at the time, was totally in compliance with all of your rules.
Yeah, yeah. I seem to remember that as well. So, I think we should put that stipulation in there, that it is in compliance with all the town ordinances and regulations. And I think you're already there.
Think so.
Makes sense.
Good.
I'm good with that.
Okay.
Jim?
Okay.
If
I do have,
I'm not sure I followed the discussion entirely.
Okay.
So if I'm wrong, behind lots on the other side of the water, and going away from Griffin, so I don't get the east-west all backwards and whatever, but going from the pool, the water retention,
Yep.
all the way to the end away from Griffin,
Okay.
horse passage behind the houses, no problem. There's room there and there's no problem. Behind lots 1 to 4, the lot line goes all the way to the canal. So there is no putting horses behind lots 1 to 4 would be forcing the horses onto the person's private backyard.
oh,
So I would think that they want to take that into account.
no.
Well, but let him finish.
Yeah, yeah.
Let him finish.
I don't think you can go right to the canal, because there's a right-of-way for South Broward Drainage District. You have to observe that.
Yeah.
Right.
Can we just?
That is observed, but I think I could be wrong about this.
Let's let Jeff. Jeff is familiar with it. Jeff, can you
The lot-
clarify this?
Maybe I missed something. They weren't talking about the horse trail. This was about general restrictions.
No, but before they were talking about the horse trail.
Right, but they were not advocating the horse trail extending in the backyards of lots 1 through 4.
Perfect.
Well, no, wait a
mistake.
minute. Wait a minute.
Yeah,
I think we were.
Yeah, I was.
I think we were.
You're advocating that it extend in the backyards of lot 1 to 4 and dead end there?
All the way to the end.
This is what my understanding of what we're advocating is, that yes, we would, and it would dead end there because we recognize that it's not going to be used today. However, when 184, whenever that gets built, whether it's in our lifetime or the next, whenever that gets built, we need to know that there will be a horse trail there to go the length of that road. And if we don't set it aside now, I think it'll be a real challenge. As I said earlier, I think it's going to be, we can do it now, and as David's point, you know, we can do it now, and there's not going to be residents there that are going to be upset. Or if we can wait till later, and it may never happen, because now people that have put up fences, that have put up all kinds of you know, shrubbery or whatever, is going to have to move, and that's going to be a real problem.
Okay, then I misunderstood, because you were asking me whether we'd have a problem establishing it later when 184th is built. And I said, yeah, we have a trail map that shows that alignment. That's why I was thinking you weren't going to have it go north of 49th Street, you know, where it intersects the canal right of way. Okay.
Yeah, my understanding is we want a trail from Griffin Road to the south end of their property on the canal right of way, or the canal easement.
Okay.
We would not be expecting the equestrian community to use it at this point, because neither end is going to go hook up to anything. So they would use a kai, as Gary proposed, for the interim until someday.
Well, what I think we were saying is going through the main entrance and hooking up behind, after Lot 4, to the trail along the canal, no problem.
No, that doesn't work. See, the problem is, at your intersection, you've got substantial traffic, okay, the entrance point that you're building. That's a problem when you're on horseback, particularly on Griffin Road. You may have heard me earlier talking about how it needs to be widened. If the canal is along, if the trail is along the canal, then people can go right to the light, press the button, wait for the light, and cross Griffin Road to the north side.
Part of the plan that you're approving, which the county is waiting for your plan to approve, creates a deceleration lane along Griffin Road and a widening, which can accommodate a staging area perfectly.
Yeah, but no light. I mean, the light is critical for this because of the traffic at that intersection. That's why we're asking for it along the canal, not to the west of the canal. I mean, I think that's my understanding of what we were discussing.
Yeah, I mean, we have all throughout the town, we have situations just as you're describing, where somebody's ownership of the property includes the horse trail that's there. So it would still be their property. We're not taking away their property, but it would be dedicated to a horse trail, and they should know that, and the fence line and things like that should be set up so that, you know, they can obviously have their gate so they can walk in and out and look at their entire property. I'm not restricting that in any way, but it needs to be set up so that there is a horse trail there that one day can be used and is known, so that when it goes in there, there's no surprises.
Understood. I just have a question then, because I'm not familiar with this. What happens if the horse along the trail falls over, falls in a hole? Is the homeowner, the horse is now going behind his house, is the homeowner going to be held liable?
Well, that would be a question for the attorney.
That's legal.
I think I know the answer to it, but
That's legal.
I mean, that's, we're not here to give you legal advice. We're here to give the town legal advice. But, I mean, that's something you would have to check with for your own internal documents.
In other words, we're not answering that question.
Set it clear.
which probably gives you an indication of what the answer is.
Check with your attorneys.
Thank you. Any other questions for me?
I have some later.
I
Your development, correct me if I'm wrong, you were cited for a code violation, right?
There was a problem with the signage when we took down the signs.
All right, that's kind of an issue that I want to go forward here, because I look at somebody coming before the council asking for something from us. They're saying, okay, we would like you to do this. And then there's a certain kind of person that says, I'm going to push it to the limit until I can push it to a climate. Let me finish for a moment, please,
Sure.
if I may. Do you know when you were cited?
I don't.
Okay. Do you know how long it took for you to pull that sign down?
Exactly in time. I don't.
Would it surprise you that that sign came down exactly the night before the code hearing?
To my knowledge, it was like 4 days before the code hearing, and I was part of the decision-making to take that sign down right.
Well, why was it up?
Okay, I'll explain. When we approached the town, or we were told we needed to put a fence up.
Sure.
And we asked, can we put a mesh in there so you don't see through? So we were told it was fine. So we put up the fence as we were told, and we were told we could put a mesh up. We didn't understand that we couldn't print on that mesh, which is commonly done throughout the world.
Not in our town.
Okay. When we were told it needed to come down, we asked, we inquired, and we took it down.
Did you take it down immediately, or did you wait until right before the hearing?
We took it down as soon as we could get our act together, find out about it, and take it down. And we called the company to come take it down. They couldn't come the day we called them to. We took it down as soon as we could act on it, after inquiring that we indeed, like, I have these meshes on other projects in Arkansas. I have them in Montreal. I have them up in other places. So I wasn't aware that we couldn't have them up here. We found, when we got the violation, we checked. We spoke with the city. We spoke with the lawyer. We found out we couldn't. We took it down.
With all due respect, this isn't Arkansas. This isn't Montreal. This isn't Weston. This isn't Pembroke Pines. This is Southwest Ranches.
I understand.
And, you know, we have our rules. And I looked at the point that the fact that you waited till just before the hearing, it has been up there over 60 days.
We didn't wait till just before the hearing. We had a meeting. We found out we needed to take it down. We called the company to take it down. They came and they took it down as soon as they could. There was no disrespect intended.
I'm just, because I know that when last year we had a lot of citations for gouging from the bulk pickup, that, you know, I had neighbors, what is this, what is these notices? And my neighbors are jumping out right away. Like within like 3 or 4 days, they're filling in the gouging to, they want to comply. And it just seems to me that the expediency of your actions were less than what I would expect. But that aside.
Apologize.
Has there, and let me go back to this HOA that you're creating, is this the kind of an HOA that I've heard one of my friends out west, he says, I've got Karens in my HOA that are enforcing laws all over the place. Is your HOA going to have all these real deed restrictions?
This HOA was created in 2017, way before I even got involved with this project.
All right. I don't think that's an answer to my question.
Dave, are we?
Okay. All right. All right.
Again,
all right.
again,
Okay.
when I read
I'll
it when I read it two years ago,
all right,
and went through it, it seemed to comply with everything that you're talking about, and really didn't have anything untoward in it.
Has there ever been a traffic study conducted for the impact of these residents on Griffin Road? Because Councilmember Hartman had expressed a widening of Griffin Road coming through. Has there been a traffic study conducted for the impact on Griffin Road?
No idea, because
Okay.
I'm a late comer to this project.
Right.
I don't know.
Thank you.
I just want to jump in real quick. I want to make sure that our decision here tonight is based solely on the evidence that's been presented by staff, the applicant, and that which is within the backup that you have.
Thanks.
You can't take into consideration any code violations or anything of that nature. It's solely that what's been placed in the record. I just wanted to put that out.
I understand. Thank you.
Okay.
May I be excused?
Just one quick comment. You're aware of the sensitivity of our signs and sign law. Yeah, well, I think you want to become familiar because it's the habit of lots of developers to put up tons of signs, home for sale, all kinds of signs all over the place. We have sign ordinances that restrict what can be put up because we don't want to see house for sale 50 feet by 50 feet. So just have your folks become familiar and you won't run afoul of code anymore.
We are, absolutely. We have, and our houses are not the type that we're putting up a sign for the passerby.
Well-
For the passerby, come.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to mention that we have a law that allows the residents to take down the signs personally. So keep that in the back of your mind.
Thank you.
And one we will let you sit down eventually. There was one item that was sent out and a question: who maintains and cleans the horse trail? I will say that from the portions that are on private property that's there. As far as cleaning for what horses do naturally, that's up to the owners, and frankly, we take some pride that, we leave those deposits around town, so I just don't want there to be any misunderstanding.
So it's not like a dog where you have to pick up your own?
No, it's not. No, it's not. And if we see one of those horse bags at the vet, that'd be a real problem. Okay? All right.
Thank you.
So,
Mr. Mayor, real quick, if I could, I had the opportunity to look at the 4 lots that are there. Their property does go to the canal.
I know.
It goes right up to the canal. So therefore, I would believe, isn't it the developer's responsibility to tell them that in the future, there could be a horse trail that goes through there if the road goes through? Would that be their responsibility to let them know that that could happen? I mean, it wouldn't be a surprise to them. I mean, you wouldn't want to surprise somebody.
We wouldn't want to surprise, but it's up to us to make sure that designation is there, and then it's their
Right.
responsibility to communicate it.
It is their
Absolutely.
responsibility, right? To communicate it, right?
Yeah.
Jeff, maybe you can clarify on the property lines, because I know where I live, people on my street own to the other side of the canal. What's the ownership situation? Is it a South Broward Canal? Is it a private canal essentially?
Yeah, it's a South Broward Canal. And the property lines 1 through 4 actually go, I believe, right, I think the canal's within, partially within that. I just want to double check. My laptop's really slow.
It's not all that clear on the documentation.
It's waterfront property.
Yeah, just give me 1 second.
Sure.
Oh, you had a premium.
Yeah, so the property lines for 1 through 4 go right to the canal bank, essentially. And then further south, and then further south, it looks like they go just about to the canal maintenance easement, maybe. Yeah, they stop there. Yeah, that appears to be the case.
Okay.
Can I get clarification? We're going to have to put this in a formal motion as to how you would word the equestrian trail motion, because I'm still a little bit confused about the part north of 49th and how that's supposed to work.
You want it?
No, it's actually.
You're probably better.
All right. So I'll start it if I go astray. If the horse trail wanders too far from where it belongs, let me know. I think that the intention here is that we would have a dedication of an equestrian trail all the way from Lot 1 to the southern end, recognizing that a portion of that is going to have to be on the actual property of the individual lots.
Okay. I guess the confusion on my part is that, so that trail would literally be on the west side of the canal.
Correct.
In the backyards.
Correct.
But it wouldn't go anywhere, and it would never go anywhere. To the north.
I'd say never. When
Well, that's what I'm wondering. What's going to change that's going to make it go somewhere, connect to the north?
184.
But the way this site is configured, and this is where I'm confused, and this is where the recommendation for the opening and the landscaping was coming from. If the site plan's approved as it is, it cannot connect anywhere to the north, because literally the landscaping at the corner of the intersection, there's a corner cord between theoretical 184th and Griffin. The landscaping is going to literally put a dead end to the trail, and there is no way that it's going to connect anywhere. Not when 184th is dedicated. That won't make any difference because you won't be able to physically get there.
Mayor?
Yeah?
Didn't, going back to where we started at the beginning of this, I think the vice mayor's proposal for that temporary access to pre-exist the construction of 184, to come in along Akai Drive, go down to the water retention, and then cut east to where that canal is, I think that may help solve the problem.
Well, yeah, but
right?
that's a temporary solution. That's
Right.
not the permanent solution. What we're talking about is after 184 is in place, and we've got the permanent solution. But yeah, definitely Akai Drive is the temporary. I follow what you're saying. I just have a real hard time believing that when a road the size of 184 gets put in, there's going to be any way to connect to it from a horse trail. How is that?
I can show you on the plan if we pull up the right sheet. I don't want to belabor this. I'm just confused.
Well, it's
because-
important. I mean, I don't want to put a restriction on them that makes no sense.
I'm going to
but-
direct you to the right plan in your packet so that we can look at the same thing.
Let us know the page, Jeff.
Yeah. Well, let me get to it.
Page 37. Or 34.
Look at page 56.
That was close.
Okay, this is the entryway landscaping. Okay, is everyone on that page? Look at the lower right corner where you see the 45-degree angle, and you see a bunch of trees and some landscaping there.
Yep.
Okay?
Yep.
The trail that we're talking about, and do you see that to the left of those, there's a row of trees and shrubs depicted there?
Mm-hmm.
The trail is that landscaping at the 45-degree angle goes all the way to the top of of the canal. Without an opening there is no way to connect to anywhere.
And, right, and I'm familiar with this. I looked at this in detail. My thought was that on the south end of that 45-degree section, where it would be closest to where the road would be put in, that's where your connection would be.
Okay, so there would be a future required break in the landscaping there.
Yeah.
When 184th is built, but not until then.
Yeah, just like we're doing, just like we're pulling out landscaping to put in Akai Drive.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, you're
Understood.
looking at 4 feet here, that should be able to be accommodated.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
As a matter of fact, the other night at the meeting, Kathy Cox brought up a number of different ways that it can come through the landscape and, limit it to horse use versus ATCs, vehicles, everything else.
And that's what that was part of our recommendation, is just that there be just enough of that break that horses could get through there and you could gate it, overnight and whatnot. But I understand exactly what you're saying now. Sorry if I was being thick.
No.
Yeah, some of
I'd
her
rather
options
clarify
did-
it now. Yeah.
Sorry,
We don't
some
want
of
to
her
confuse the
options did-
planner.
Some of her options did not require a gate. It was just a matter of running the trail properly through there. So
Yeah,
people don't
sometimes it's
realize.
like this.
Yeah,
But the
exactly.
gate was just I
understand.
just
Well,
offering
the
it up.
gate becomes frivolous, it's unnecessary at this point because
Yeah.
the trail was temporarily going up one way.
Yeah.
And then when the road gets reconfigured, in our lifetime maybe, then it applies.
Right.
Yeah, or at least that's how I have it in my head.
But now, how do we regulate this going forward? If somebody comes in on Lot 1 and they want to put a fence up, their fence sketch would require them to set it back away from where the horse trail would be?
I would assume.
I'm not assuming, that's why I'm asking.
Yeah.
I would like that.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, I apologize, but I need for you to come up to the microphone and
Yeah.
indicate that.
Behind lots 1 to 4, we already have a 15-foot for the county from the canal. So our vegetation or whatever end of the, like, you know, whatever screen they want to put up as bushes, trees, and whatever, will be
Has to be the side
15
of
foot in.
Okay.
So that's not going to be an issue.
So, yeah, it'd be the same thing.
So it doesn't sound like there's any issue to put the horse trail back
Yeah.
there, since there's already a 15-foot setback.
Yeah, there's.
The issue is not, the issue is only legal, like in terms of liability. Our concern is putting the liability on the people's houses and the association. Because there's an entrance at at one end of the pond on the, help me out, the entrance on the side of the pond is what direction is that? The north, the west, or the east?
West.
So there's one on the west side. You have an entrance through the main gate from Griffin, and then you have an entrance back at the top, which I guess is the north side. So you have those 3 entrances, and you have a cut across to the canal behind the other lots. So the only section that we're asking to exclude out of like you have 4 different directions the horses can go. The only place we're asking to exclude is behind lots 1 to 4, if possible, so that we don't have a liability issue.
Right.
That's all we're asking.
Right.
They're not bothered.
Thank you.
I think that's a deal breaker.
Yeah,
I think so.
I would
I agree
agree.
with you.
Yeah, unfortunately, we're going to need that.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I'm going to break with tradition here. Newell, you have some comments.
Bill Hollingsworth, 190th Avenue. I have been sworn. This right here is extremely simple. In the comprehensive plan, there's a trailways map. It has been approved by the council.
Right.
Whenever it is developed, a trail will be put in. And it shall be the developer's responsibility to put that trail in and maintain it. That is in the comp plan. And we did it for when they did the airport property. They have to put the trail in and maintain it. And this section here is very simple. They have to put the trail in and maintain it. Now, if they're not going to do it until 184th is put in, there has to be in the documents that then the homeowners association is going to be responsible to put the trail in and maintain it.
That's what we're talking about.
Till such time. It's that simple.
Right, great.
And the connection to Griffin Road as it continues down south to Sheridan.
Great.
And their responsibility is only that section that they're developing now.
Great, thank you.
So that's very simple.
Yep.
And if they haven't done it already, which they haven't, then they are defective.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
So I think the simple answer for Jeff is to make sure that any trails that are proposed conform with our comp plan. Is that simple enough, or?
Well, I think I have the wording. I just needed
Okay.
clarification.
I'm trying to be a little more broad with it, because if he complies with the plan, then, but please, if you want to further refine. go for
I
it.
have language that I can read to you when you're ready to hear
Okay,
it.
okay. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, if I could speak on behalf of the developer. I went over the plans for the horse trail with him, and he did not have an objection to what the vice mayor suggested, which is a horse trail along Akai Drive. The only question I have is, which side is preferable, the east side or the west side? I think that
Akai
was
Drive?
only- Sorry?
On Akai Drive you're talking
On
about?
Akai Drive,
I was
correct.
identifying the west side.
You were
Yeah.
identifying the
Not
west
of
side.
Vacate Drive, though.
Huh?
You were talking more side of the canal,
All of
right?
Akai Drive.
No, on Akai Drive on,
Oh.
at the main entrance,
On
right?
lots
That's
where
correct.
it comes in off 49th and then shoots up, there's I think a 10 or 12-foot buffer area.
There's a 13-foot,
Swale.
there's a 13-foot
right.
swale. The only problem with that is that swale's planned to be planted with trees, and it abuts the adjacent church that there will be a slight difference in elevation
You might
there.
want to change the landscaping then.
Yeah. On the east side, it's very similar. There's planting, but there's also a utility easement that's
Well,
nearby, so.
I went to the west
Either.
side to your benefit because the
Right.
house is on the other side.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And then they're gonna have driveways and all
You want to flip it and go
that.
the other way, that's fine.
Correct.
I thought you would want
that's
to.
safer for the riders.
Yeah,
to be honest
absolutely.
with you, on that east side. But
Huh?
East side would probably be safer for the riders.
Yeah.
Because
Right.
that way they're not right there where the roads.
It doesn't matter, it can go down the middle of the road, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Either way is good.
Yeah, but
So either way.
the key thing is that once it goes past your front entrance feature.
Correct.
Okay, then you've got to make provisions for the horses.
So I
to
think,
go to the east.
to the east.
Along Griffin
Yeah.
Road.
So, as you mentioned that, I was noticing that there is as you guys might know, there's a berm along the south side there that
Yep.
separates the road from the
Correct.
development. There is still space between the berm and the lot to be able to, extend the horse trail so you can go further east.
Make it look pretty.
Good. Awesome.
Okay?
Good suggestion.
Yeah.
This gentleman mentioned a little word that kind of triggered my thoughts because I've had some discussions with Andy about my neighbors complaining about people planting trees in the swale. And my understanding is it's not allowed. And I just want to know, am I incorrect in understanding that?
Well, this is a different type of swale. This is
Okay.
not a drainage
All right.
swale. This is like the sound buffer that was put in there. That's kind of a berm, really, more than
All
a
right.
swale. Yeah.
So it's really not a swell then?
Yeah, I don't think so.
It's a very shallow swale.
For what?
But I don't think
conveyance
we
of
didn't
water?
plant any trees in the swale.
Not in the center of the swale, so it's
No.
not going to disturb the
No,
conveyance of the
on the
stormwater.
side
Center of
it's
the
right
swell.
Yeah, it's like somewhere off to the side. I mean,
Well, wait a minute. I could be wrong here. Are you, because you can't plant trees in the swale. I
Well,
thought it
I'm
was
not the
going on
landscape
berm.
architect, but what I've seen from the landscape architect, he is putting trees within the swale area.
Jeff?
That may,
Answer that question, not the permitting
No,
question.
they don't have it in the plan. Oh, okay.
As to whether it's in the plan,
Right.
yeah, it's in the plan. Just have the sheet.
What-
It is,
you-
it is in the plan on both sides of Akai Drive. There's shows palm trees being planted in the swale.
yeah, that's a no-go.
Yep.
Yeah.
Pick a side.
Oh,
This
another
is a
condition.
private road.
There's the pavement, there's the
Well,
swale
we're already
right
saying
there
we have to adhere to the town code. so-
on both sides of the road.
No, but I'm just wondering if they can have it on one side versus the other.
I don't think it was actually part of the plan 100 years ago.
Yeah, when you get back.
Okay, okay.
I think I'll wait for him to come back.
That's probably,
Yeah, probably
Smart
safe.
and the winner is, the conclusion is?
And the winner is, there are palms shown on both sides in the swale along Akai Drive. These are the types of things that I mentioned we'd work out administratively with the petitioner
Okay.
to make sure that it's compliant, and we understand he wants to put palms there. Some of the palms could be moved back onto the private property. If they're not permissible on the other side of the swale, they'd come out.
Okay.
We understand.
Okay, all right, awesome.
Pick a side,
Yeah,
Right.
all right.
pick a side and put in different landscaping.
Good, I just wanted to mention that.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you
Okay,
bringing that up.
so with the trail, I think we're good with the trail. I do have one other question unrelated to the trail. In lots 1 and 2, there is like a half circle that is taken out. I want to make sure I understand. I thought that was to allow for those entry and exit into those properties, but it looked like that was coming out for some reason, like that was being removed.
Okay.
Can you walk through that? I'm not sure exactly
Yes.
what's going on there.
Currently, there's a turnaround easement there because the act, under today's plan that was approved in 2017, access to Griffin was temporary.
Right.
And so there would be once that access was closed and access came off of 184th, there would be a permanent turnaround on the north end of Kai Drive.
Okay.
In the next application, we're going to talk about, yes, they are proposing to vacate that. When you look at the plan, it almost looks like it's still there because you see this. Those are the curves you see are the building pad lines that they're proposing, and they're just measuring. They're setting it back 50 feet from the little stub that would provide access to lots 1 and 2, especially lot 1. Lot 1 would have difficulty accessing from a Kai Drive because there's a wall running kind of the length of lot 1 along a Kai Drive. And so this little stub goes in and allows the driveway to connect to it. But it's not a turnaround anymore. It's not circular, just a little stub.
Okay, great, thank you. All right, very good, thank you. Any other, so I've heard, please correct me if I go astray. I've heard 2 additional stipulations. One is that the HOA documents would be aligned with all of our local codes and ordinances.
Here,
Right. And then the second one is the proposal that the vice mayor made as far as how the temporary access would be, and that we would have the full trailway on the west side, east side of the property.
But the west side of the canal.
West side of the canal, east side of the property.
Mm-hmm.
Those were the 2 stipulations I heard.
Right.
And now we'll have a moment of calm while we wait for our fifth vote to arrive back.
Do we need to make a motion?
Well,
Yeah, we do need to make a motion.
We do.
All right, I'll make a motion based on the stipulations that Jeff has brought forward with the changing conditions on the horse trail that we just mentioned, and also adding the word equestrian in number 10 stipulation, or pedestrian and equestrian. And I need a second.
And the stipulation that the HOA documents.
Yes, sorry, yes, yeah, all the stipulations that were just mentioned, the 2.
Okay.
The HOA docs, the horse trail, and the temporary horse trail.
Okay.
And the requirement that at such time that 184th is constructed adjacent to the development, the developer or homeowners association, who's ever in control at that time, has to create an opening in the connection to the 184th trail.
Correct. That's my motion.
Second.
Awesome.
Don't ask me to repeat it.
Second.
Okay, very good.
All
right.
Second.
We did, first, second. Any further discussion on this item? I think we're ready for the call.
Councilmember Albritton?
Yes.
Councilmember Hartman?
Yes.
Councilmember Kaczynski?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Jablonski?
Yes.
Mayor Bright Cruz?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Beat that to death.
Yeah. All right. Where's my agenda?
Item 10.
Item 10, Mayor.
Yeah, item number 10, thank you.
Yes, Mayor. This was an ordinance on first reading. This is an ordinance of the town of Southwest Ranches, Florida, vacating, closing, and abandoning platted and unplatted portions of Akai Drive, Southwest 49th Street, and associated turn lane and turnaround easements within the Tara plot. Recorded in Plat Book 162, page 20 of the Public Records of Broward County, Florida, accepting the grant of an ingress-egress drainage and utility easement in place of the abandoned platted right-of-way and unplatted ingress-egress easement for Akai Drive, accepting the grant of a recreational trail easement, authorizing the preparation and execution of effectuating documents, providing for instructions to the town clerk, providing for recordation, providing for conflicts, providing for severability, and providing an effective date.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Guys,
What?
we need, you need to amend your motion for all the stipulations that we did in quasi.
Withdraw my second.
And All right, so I'll make the motion to approve with the stipulations that were requested under the quasi-judicial hearing. Is that right?
Which was item number 4.
Item number 4.
Yeah, because this is
Got it.
different.
No,
As
they
well as the
dovetail.
stipulations that
Thank you.
we're recommending for this, that
Correct.
be satisfied prior to second reading.
You're right.
Second.
Perfect. Okay. is
Thank you,
there any
Vice Mayor.
discussion on this item? All right. Is there any public comment on this item?
Newell Hollingsworth, 199th Avenue. Again, I'm going to state that you said equestrian trail. Our trails in our town, and which is on the comprehensive plan trailways map, is a multi-purpose trail, not just an equestrian trail. And you cannot label it an equestrian trail only. It is a multi-purpose trail. Or you're breaking the comprehensive plan, and you can't do that unless you change the comp plan. So, you need to change from equestrian trail to multi-purpose trail. Thank you.
Thanks, Noel. Any other public comments? Seeing none. I think we had equestrian and
Yeah, that was in
pedestrian.
there. Pedestrian,
Pedestrian.
equestrian,
I believe it was all-inclusive, or Jeff's going to include.
My,
make sure
my
it complies
wording
with-
in the staff report and the resolution was recreational trail.
vehicles, bicycles, pedestrians, and equestrians.
Okay,
Captures everything.
Yeah.
good. Good. I think
Do
we
we
got
need
it.
to change the letter of the law, though, to comply with the comp plan?
Are you amending your motion?
I'm asking the question first.
The, again, the resolution and the actual verbiage you approved says recreational trail.
Right.
Okay? So you're
I
good.
think we're
I think we're good.
I think we're good.
Okay. So I don't need to change.
Any other discussion, comments on this item? Seeing none, will you please call the item?
Certainly, Mayor. Councilmember Albritton?
Yes.
Councilmember Hartman?
Yes.
Councilmember Kozinski?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Jablonski?
Yes.
Mayor Bright Cruz?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Bit of a marathon. All right, item number 11, please.
This is a resolution of the Town Council of the Town of Southwest Ranches, Florida, consenting to the City of Cooper City providing water services to 5101 South Flamingo Road, real property lying within the Town of Southwest Ranches, Florida, providing that no further expansion of service shall be permitted without the explicit written consent of the town, providing for a certified copy of this resolution to be furnished to the City of Cooper City, and providing an effective date.
Great, thank you. Do I have a motion on this item?
Motion approved?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any council discussion on this item?
This wouldn't bother us in the future should the county decide that that 500-foot rule take place. This wouldn't affect us, would it? Where everybody in 500 foot would have to join up.
Well, I would say that we have, our town attorney has done a great job of getting us an exemption from that, so I think we're in good shape. I can't speak to the future.
Okay.
But I think we're in good shape.
Yeah.
Any other questions, comments on this item? Seeing none, is there any public comment on this item? Seeing none. All right, can we please call the item?
Councilmember Albritton?
Yes.
Councilmember Hartman?
Yes.
Councilmember Kozinski?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Jablonski?
Yes.
Mayor Bright Cruz?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, the
Outstanding.
approval of the minutes from January 27th.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Is there any corrections or comments on those minutes? Seeing none, is there any public correction or comments on this? Seeing none, will you please call the roll?
Councilmember Albritton?
Yes.
Councilmember Hartman?
Yes.
Councilmember Kozinski?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Jablonski?
Yes.
Mayor Bright Cruz?
Yes.
Motion passes.
And that's all, that's all the rest of the show.
That's it.
Motion to adjourn.
Awesome.
Yep.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thanks.